Good evening. This is a meeting of the Board of Selectmen, September 24th, 2013. Selectman Horlick, would you like to lead the board into the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Chairman,
board
I
members,
didn't have time to talk to Paul Cacciola.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. I'd like to give a moment of silence for Paul Cacciola, who worked down in inspectional services. He was a dedicated town employee. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, first on the agenda, we do have several invited guests tonight. Mr. Manager, you have our new economic development grant writer position, Bob Luongo.
As you guys are aware, as you supported the initiative, as well as town meeting to bring in an economic development coordinator. He's really hit the ground running. He has about 30 years of experience, as I think we've discussed before. Quite a bit of strong experience with planning, and his name is Robert Luongo. One of the things that I know the board is passionate about, and Selectman Castanet had brought up regarding the marijuana, legalization of the dispensaries. Obviously, Saugus and the residents, as well as others that I've fielded calls from, have concerns over reservations over the locations that these dispensaries would be located within a community, and what type of impact it would have in areas, whether it's residential or commercial areas. One of the things that Rob had hit the ground running was to put together start working on a bylaw, zoning bylaw that would sort of do an overlay and look at it. And we've had many discussions with the police, Board of Health, the building commissioner, as well as town council. We are in the works of working on that, but in the meantime, one of the strategies or considerations that we feel would be the best suited for us at this point in the community would be to have and that's what I'm going to be asking you for, to call a special for October 15th, to have a moratorium article submitted to the town meeting. Obviously, it has to go through the planning board for a recommendation, but the moratorium would give us more time out till next September to be able to work on a more concise and precise zoning plan that could be presented through the board and through the planning board, as well as the town meeting at a future date. But I think this is all new within the state. Just to sort of give a background of it, actually I'll call Robert up and he can give a background to you guys.
Hi, Mr. Luongo. Hi, welcome and good evening.
Thank you.
For your hard work, Bob, on this.
Sure. As Town Manager Scott Crabtree just said, we are working on an overlay district for the medical marijuana centers. Just a quick background, as you all realize, in November of 2012, the voters of Massachusetts approved of a medical marijuana legislation which allowed patients with debilitating illnesses to obtain marijuana at medical treatment facilities, medical marijuana treatment centers, of which the Commonwealth has decided there would be a maximum of 5 per county, meaning a total of 35 of these centers in the Commonwealth, no more than 5 per county. As of Monday, the applications were due into the state. Mass Department of Public Health is running this whole program. And applications for medical marijuana treatment centers were due into the state in August of this year. 181 applicants were received. This past Monday, they went over all their qualifications that they had to submit with their applications, and 151 of those, or 155, I believe, let me just get the number, 158 of the 181 qualified. So 158 medical marijuana centers are applying for these 35 spots throughout the state, 5 per county. Essex County has 18 applicants in Essex County, and Essex County includes a number of communities, obviously. The applications are now online at the state website at the Department of Public Health, and they were required to, in their applications, to give at least the county and if they knew the municipalities in which they were locating in. I went over the applications today online. Of the 18, 3 of the applicants did not indicate the communities in which they were locating in. They just said they wanted to locate in Essex County. The other applicants did indicate the community in which they wanted to locate in. They range from Revere, Salem, I believe Haverhill. Haverhill's in Essex County, I believe. And I can't remember them all. Saugus was not mentioned in any of the applications, but as I said, there were 3 applications that just gave Essex County, so they could possibly come into Saugus, and just because a community, an applicant's indicated another town does not mean they couldn't change their mind and come into Saugus. So just giving that background, giving the mandate from the voters of Massachusetts, and every community voted for the medical marijuana facilities, except 2. The only 2 that didn't vote were Lawrence and the town of Mendon, but every other community approved of it. So we need to try to accommodate these facilities. They are for the benefit of people with illnesses that cause a lot of pain. The Attorney General's office has ruled that we cannot keep these facilities out of a community, but they have ruled that you could issue a temporary moratorium. And the Attorney General office just came out, I believe, last Friday saying that no town could exceed a time period past December of 2014. So the moratorium could not go past that timeline. In our proposed temporary bylaw moratorium, we're proposing a date of September 30th, 2014, which gives us time to really understand the Code of Massachusetts regulations, which were just published in May of this year. The Department of Public Health came out with their regulations that give really the details of the law, how these facilities should be operated, and a lot of logistics are in that Code of Mass regulations. So really, we need more time to study those regulations, see how they impact land uses in Saugus, have more weigh-in from the public safety officials, namely the police department. And we've also had dialogue, as town manager Scott Crabtree has said, with the police department, and we've also talked with building department and health department as well on these regulations. So it's almost like peeling back an onion. The more you get into this thing, the more complicated it gets. So we really feel that this temporary moratorium is needed for us to really digest these regulations and to bring me up a little bit more to speed on the land use regulations that are in these mass regulations. I've been going to a couple of the seminars on medical marijuana facilities and learning a little bit more about the land use issues that we should be regulating on this. So I think this will give us time to really understand these regulations and to craft a fair bylaw that won't prohibit, but will allow these facilities in locations that will, number one, benefit the patients and assure the neighborhoods in Saugus that they won't be negatively impacted by this use if it comes into Saugus.
Thank you for your hard work on this, Bob. Any questions by board members?
Mr. Chairman?
Selectman Horlick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for coming on board when we had the meeting down at the ITAM about the river project down there, trying to see what we can do. You did an excellent job down there. And I know when this first came about, as soon as it passed, I made a phone call to the chief of police, and I did have the board support me on going to the state delegation that if we couldn't see where this could be stopped or have some kind of moratorium, that at least we find out areas that we could put it in, and we opened up a dialogue with the state delegation through the Attorney General's office. And I know on the bylaw, once you get it drafted, that we can look at it. I know on alcohol, you can't sell alcohol within so many feet of either a school or a church. Correct. So maybe this will be similar to that. It has to be in certain areas that are a certain distance from certain location in town.
Correct.
So,
yeah, right. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, through you, this would be similar to adult entertainment as far as trying to find a sensitive area that will have the least impact in the community, and that's what we'd work on.
And isn't adult entertainment, I think it's 1,000 feet from the nearest residential lot? I believe that's what it is. We have on our thing,
Right.
1,000
The
feet.
state regulations regulate near schools and playgrounds, 500 feet, a minimum of 500 feet. We can be even more restrictive. What I've been hearing is we can issue our own regulations as long as we don't violate the intent of the state law. The intent of the state law is to get these located in communities. So we can add layers of regulation on it, but as long as it doesn't prohibit these facilities.
Well, it's certainly like conservation. It's 100 feet from waterways,
Right.
but in certain parts of the town, we adopt 200 feet because we want to protect
Exactly.
the riverbank area in certain parts of town. We want to increase that protection against certain development, so we actually increase it to 200 feet. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Manager?
just to add to this so that you get a perspective from the board's perspective, what is different or a little bit unique about the medical marijuana is that this has been approved by the state, different than how the board deals with entertainment licenses or special permits or, with a liquor license where the board and the town have approval rights. The process here and the way it is, we're sort of out of the loop the way it's structured. Although what we are looking at would be, other than zoning bylaws, looking at, whether the police would want to sponsor, for regulatory enforcement purposes, and the Board of Health, their own bylaws that would be separate than the zoning, but because if you have to, whether there has to be certain facilities and they have to be inspected, they do leave it up to the locals to have some regulatory or authoritative position over it, but it's different in the sense of if we have somebody that wants a liquor license, they come in and the board, there's a process and then the state approves it. Here, they're being approved as facilities that can apply, and then once they apply, we're now in the position where we would have to allow them to go. And sort of why we're kind of moving this at a fast pace for the moratorium is that we sort of want, we definitely want to have that in place before anybody's approved and we have a chance to set up.
So this is time sensitive, so
That's correct.
we need to call a special town meeting for October 15th, open it, submit
It's a
this article,
Tuesday
and
evening,
close
that's
it.
correct.
Any other questions from board members?
I have a quick
Deb?
question.
Selectman Panetta?
Through you to our town manager. So you're going to submit this article to town meeting. It's going to amend Article 3 definitions in the zoning bylaws and also Article 16 as written, as you've submitted it to us this evening.
That's correct.
Okay, and one real quick question to Mr. Luongo. From the meeting from the riverfront that you had back a few weeks ago over at the yacht club,
Yep.
have you put up those slides and the information on the internet for people to take a look at the town website?
We haven't yet. I'm working with Peter Manukian on that, and we will get that information up relative to that.
I know people were looking for it
Yeah, I mean,
from
we
the
don't
meeting,
want,
so-
I know we're off the topic, but we don't want people, with people hanging out there, what we're trying to do with
No,
that.
I was just following up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other
you.
questions?
No, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Selectman Panetta makes a motion.
I'll make a motion that we call a special town meeting on October 15th. That's not Columbus Day, right?
It's the day after.
Okay.
Okay, and that
That's
is,
essentially the soonest we can have it.
that is seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7 o'clock or 7:30, what time?
7:30.
7:30.
Okay, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain, ayes have it 5-0. And I need a motion to submit this article into the special town meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Selectman Panetta makes a motion, we submit the article submitted by the Economic Development, Mr. Luongo, into the special town meeting, seconded by the chair. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, ayes have it. Now I need a motion to close the town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Selectman Horlicks makes a motion to close the October 15th special town meeting warrant, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, ayes have it 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malongo.
Mr. Chairman, just to quickly add, we've met with the Chairman Rossetti of the Planning Board, and they're going to have an advertisement going out on Thursday, and, so they can have the 2 weeks to be able to have a hearing on the 10th.
Yeah, I know you have some strict dates that we have to meet.
Thank
and-
you.
And I understand the urgency. Next, we have Mr. Greg Nichols from the Youth and Recreation Department for an invited guest. Good evening, Greg. How are you? And Greg, could you introduce the people with you tonight?
Yes, I will. Good evening, Mr. Manager, Selectmen. I'm here tonight for 2 reasons. First, I'd like to officially and formally invite you to tomorrow night's community meeting here at 7 p.m., 7 to 9, to introduce the MOPSI grant, which I'll explain in a minute, and second, to introduce the staff from MGH, this part of the team that's going to be mentoring us. But before I do that, I just want to give a little background. It was about a year ago, almost a year ago, that we lost a lot of residents to fatal overdoses. It was like some 7 fatal overdoses in a span of 9 days. And that got a lot of residents alarmed, and that, obviously things like that mobilize people. And 2 grassroots coalitions formed, Saugus We Care and the Anti-Drug Coalition. At the same time, I went over to Revere Cares in Revere, which actually Revere Cares, if I say this right, they are a program of Massachusetts General Hospital Center for Community Health Improvement. I went over there to pick their brain, see what they're doing, see what, because they had their problems and they started to reverse their problems. So I was just reaching out for help. The manager gave us instructions at a meeting prior to that about reaching out, regionalization, reaching out to people. So that's what I had done. And as a result of that meeting and ongoing, we actually had 2 summits, regional summits, the following in February. Was it January and February? Yep. And they were pretty successful. And what that did was that set the tempo for us when they applied for this MOPSI grant. It's a Massachusetts Opioid Abuse Prevention Collaborative. We had already been working with them. It went out across the state, and I had consulted with the manager because we had a couple of different ways that we could have went with this. And after reviewing with him and getting his feedback, we chose to go with Revere and MGH because they had some proven success. Not great, but proven success. And I say not great as a put down. Everyone is grappling with this issue. And before I introduce Erica and Julia, I had a good meeting with the manager today. And I've been up here how many times? I've been doing this 15 years, and I've been part of a lot of different initiatives, very well-intended initiatives, a lot of great people, and not much has come of it. And the conversation that I had with the manager today, and if you indulge me, I like what was said. We were talking and discussing things back and forth, and one of the things that he said to me was he was laying out some structure and giving me some directives on what to do, And he said, I don't want to sign on anything that's not going to succeed. I like that. That caught my attention because I don't want to do anything more that's not going to succeed. With that being said, these people from MGH have encouraged me. I'm cautiously optimistic. What the manager said and his guidance and instruction on how we're going to tackle it as a community with the assistance of MGH, I'm very hopeful. With that, I'd like to introduce to you Erica Clark. Erica is a representative of Mass General Hospital and works as a representative of the City of Revere. She is an assessment and planning consultant on this grant. She is going to give you a brief preview of some of the information that will be shared at tomorrow night's event. Erica's expertise is in conducting community assessments that clarify the root of a community health problem and develop strategic plans that are based on a community's needs and strengths. She conducted the assessment, strategic planning, and evaluation processes for Revere's Mass Call 2 grant and was instrumental in helping Revere to select strategies that best fit its local conditions. I was in Texas with Erica. Also, the other team that you'll be meeting tomorrow night, these people really got it going on. They're professional, they're down to earth, and they know what they're doing. And like I said, they have shown a success rate of reducing the fatal opioid. And with that said, and I'm going to turn it over, go ahead.
The only thing, Mr. Chairman, I just want to add, because people are probably watching, I just want to reiterate that the meeting is tomorrow night. It's a community event for everybody to come and get input and try to support the initiative. And it's here at the Town Hall in this auditorium from 7 to 9 p.m. So if you're at home, and I know everybody, their families and friends or whatnot, everybody has somebody that's been affected by drugs or alcohol, and this is really important, I think, to be able to have a sustained initiative that is going to persevere from getting derailed, and really we need the community is the key of getting behind this, and the education and the prevention. So we really want to encourage everybody to come out.
Okay.
So with that said, I went way off my talking points, but I got the point across, and I'll turn it over to Erica. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for your hard work. I know this is an issue dear to your heart, and we appreciate all you've done for the community over the last long time, several years. And welcome, Erica. Nice to meet you. Come on up. Welcome to Saugus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is my second time here, so
Oh, great.
I'm getting to know you. So thank you, Greg, and thank you to the Saugus Board of Selectmen and for inviting me here this evening. And I really want to applaud the town of Saugus, its administrators, and its residents for taking the courageous step to acknowledge the problem of opiate and opioid addiction and facing it head on. And that really showed with many residents from Saugus, their participation in these couple of community forums, which the purpose of those was to kind of raise awareness of the issue, bring people together, bring some experts in the room to talk about the issue, and providing information and connecting, family members even to providers, and really get the momentum going around that issue. So it was really powerful. Those were very powerful events, and like Greg said, it was at the right time, and it happened to really be a great way to mobilize the several communities as part of a region, to address this work together, and which was the kind of the design behind this Department of Public Health grant, to bring communities together and to strengthen municipalities and community local coalitions together to address this work, and pooling resources and pooling, building up the readiness in the community to address the issue. And this issue is steeped in stigma, but it's an issue that directly or indirectly impacts the entire community. And I've learned from my experience in Revere that remarkable things can happen when community members come together to proactively tackle a health issue. And I look forward to seeing what Saugus can achieve in the years through the involvement of the ROC, which is what we've entitled our community cluster of Chelsea, Revere, Saugus, and Winthrop. And it stands for the Winnesimmet Regional Opioid Collaborative, and that came from one of our one of the folks from Winthrop who recognized that the Native American kind of roots to the region. So it was kind of a neat bonding opportunity for the four communities to come together and name themselves in a meaningful way. So as Greg mentioned, Revere, Chelsea, Saugus, and Winthrop form this cluster, and we're led by the city of Revere, and our committee, the ROC, is charged with conducting an assessment and planning process to create and implement regional strategies to prevent opioid addiction and overdose. So again, in all of this work, we're basing it on assessment. We're talking to the folks in the community, we're studying the data to really learn about what's going on in those communities, the particular factors related, that may be increasing the overdoses, and then tailoring strategies that are really gonna make an impact, and sustainable strategies that really fit with the community. So that's really a major goal. Now I'll talk a little bit about some data that I want to share. That'll be a little preview for tomorrow's event. So this is publicly available public health data on the issue about overdose treatment, access to treatment, and some self-reported youth use of prescription drugs and opioids. So as I mentioned, this region, are all combating the opiate overdose and opiate use, and according to this public health data, Saugus ranks as the 23rd highest city or town in the state for fatal and non-fatal overdoses, according to a DPH review of data. Some comparison: Revere ranks 10th, Chelsea ranks 24th, and Winthrop ranks the 43rd. So again, just emphasizing that the region could benefit from work in this area. We know it's a problem because we do see that folks are accessing treatment for heroin addiction. So the good news is that people are accessing it, but we know that there's very much likely a greater need still. And lastly, according to the 2013 Saugus Youth Survey, 22% of high school students reported using prescription drugs not prescribed to them at least once. And if you think about the size of the high school, that percent, I believe, might be around 125 students said that they had at one time used a prescription drug that not prescribed to them. And 6% reported doing this in the past 30 days, so that's kind of the current use. And 44.5% of high school students reporting using opioids or narcotics at least once in their lifetime. So I believe not as prescription with the purpose of getting a high. So while these data points are striking, and I'm certainly willing to share these more broadly, and if anybody wants a copy, we can make them available. It is public. The public health data is available to anybody, but these slides, if that's helpful. So while these data points are striking, part of my role in the coming weeks will be to help ready your community to conduct some local focus groups and key stakeholder interviews, which will be really important to really understand these local conditions. And for instance, interviews and focus groups might enlighten us to how youth are accessing medications not prescribed to them, and what misconceptions youth and adults may have that lead them to believe that it's not a big deal to use medications without a doctor's approval. And with this nuanced understanding about what contributes to the problem of opioid addiction, who's at the highest risk for addiction and overdose, and what Saugus's many strengths are, we can work together to tailor this regional plan to a regional strategic plan that can help Saugus and its partners prevent addiction and overdose. Before I enter my remarks, I wanted to mention that I believe Saugus is uniquely positioned at this time to address opiate addiction. And my experience working with Greg and community leaders from the Saugus Anti-Drug Coalition and Saugus We Care indicates that there's a lot of positive energy in this community to work together towards creating improved health outcomes. And our MGH team is also fortunate to have Julia Newhall with us as the grant assessment coordinator for this grant. And she, grew up in Saugus and has unique understanding of its residents and is deeply invested in helping Saugus save lives by, preventing addiction and overdose. So she makes up one of our important members of our team. And thank you again for your attention to this important issue. We look forward to working with your community through this assessment and planning process in the months to come. And as Greg mentioned, this work will kick off tomorrow night, and I won't be able to attend personally, but the rest of our team, including Julia, will be there to kick off the event.
Erica, you don't mind answering a question
Oh, yeah.
from the Selectman?
Of course,
Panetta?
of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you and your team, Greg, and all the work that your team has done over the years. I mean, clearly, the word you used was striking. This is beyond striking. Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea why? I mean, I have my own theories of why, but do you have any idea why, through your research and focus groups, why Saugus is 3 times higher in heroin use than the average of Massachusetts?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to Saugus, directly. I mean, and that's why we want to do these kind of qualitative data collection to really talk to the experts and talk to those that are most affected by the problem, their family members, even active users, and even the business community, all sectors of the community, to really ask people, what their perceptions are and kind of summing that data. In terms of the region, in Revere, I think it's access. It seems to be, I think there is some national data showing that, in other parts of the country, cocaine is kind of the top issue, but the top drug of choice. But for some reason, this region are opioids. It's just an access, it's a drug of choice for the region, I think. There are some public health data slides from, I've heard a presentation from the Department of Public Health folks, really showing that the usage is it's just different in this region, in the North Shore area in particular.
We're off the charts.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, I think the value of these folks and the experience and expertise that they bring that has such a depth to it that and the approach of how this grant and how it's organized is that one of the things that they are not going on as assumptions. They're really strategically, going out to get the information so that they can gather that information and have, quantitative and evidence to be able to set up a strategic plan that will be unique. Some of it will be overlap, but will be unique to each community. So there may be strategies that are put in place in Saugus that are different than in Chelsea or Winthrop or Revere. And I think that this approach is so different. I think the way it's being attacked, and the grant itself is it's such a value. It's a $100,000 grant for the next 3 years, and then there's a 2-year and a 2-year. But I think there's many theories on, why there's such a problem, particularly in Saugus or other communities. But I think that's really the value and the uniqueness that I think is promising to, all of us that want to, combat and the challenge of taking on the problem here. I think, we've talked, and in many of the meetings it's discussed, this is sort of one of those things that nobody wants in the newspapers, nobody wants to discuss, overdoses and whatnot, because it affects property values, it affects communities, the statistics, but it's such, everybody knows, because everybody has somebody that's involved in this, has been, challenged and debilitated by it. Or even, deceased because of it. And I think that the important thing now is we're really looking at and discussing it, even, that it's sort of taboo issue and has stigma to it, that it doesn't discriminate. And I just, I think these folks are phenomenal at what they're doing. And it's about the implementation of any initiative, and we need a supported, ongoing and repetitive initiative to continue the movement and to go after the challenge here.
Mr. Manager, what he said about it affects property values because of the stigma. Revere has its slogan, Revere on the Rise. Because they've addressed it and they've stemmed the tide and they're turning it back, property values,
Yes, yeah. There was that recent article within the past year in the Globe about real estate improving.
Becoming one of the top places
Yeah.
in the near future.
because they're attacking the issue. That's one of the reasons.
Improving the quality of life, yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
You want a question?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Selectman Horlick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg, I want to thank you and your team for all your hard effort. And just on a little personal note, I remember when I met you 10 years ago at the Saugus Rotary Club, and we brought you as a guest speaker, and you explained how you went to Alaska to work because you yourself wanted to say, I need to do something to straighten my life out, and you went there and you came back a better person. And it's somebody that says that I have a problem, I'm going to straighten myself out, and then I'm going to the best thing to actually be human is to say that I'm going to help others and show them the way that I was afforded, to tell them that you don't have to have these issues, you don't have to go through them, I'm here to help you. So when somebody sits in front of you and tries to give you a story, you can say, you know, I've been there, I know exactly what you're trying to say. And there's been at least a dozen people in the last 5 years that have come up to me that have said, if it wasn't for you and your efforts and the team and the grant and everything you do, they know that they would have had tragedies in their lives, that you have saved people in their lives from being addicted to drugs or other issues that they had, and they have turned their lives around, and now they basically have families and they have everything that they have now to thank from all the efforts that have been put forward by you and everybody in Saugus. So I want to personally thank you for that.
Thank you. Did Julia want to say a few words?
Oh, no, she wanted to introduce me, but
Oh, okay.
You'll see her again
I'll
tomorrow.
be there tomorrow, so I hope you all attend. I'm from Saugus originally. I live in Revere now. I'm a Revere resident, but I grew up here, so I hope you all attend tomorrow night and we can work together and collaborate.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks a
guys.
lot.
Thank you all. Thanks for all your hard work.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to
Manager?
say, that obviously this is something that the board has supported, and, I just want to say that your efforts of supporting this and being able to be behind the initiative means a lot, and I think when you have elected officials, supporting this and being behind it, it does make a difference, and we hope that, this is going to be successful to deal with this issue and combat it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good night. Next on the agenda, we have our invited guest from SCTS, Mr. Brian Nadeau.
Mr. Chairman, can we entail a motion to table the 8 o'clock and the 8:05 public meetings?
Yep.
It's 8:09.
Selectman Horlick makes a motion to table the public hearings, 8 o'clock and 8:05. Seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Ayes have it 5-0. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Oh, not bad.
I just
Welcome.
want to say thank you for inviting me up here today. As of today, first of all, my name is Brian Nadeau. For those who don't know me, I'm the new operations manager over at SCTS. I've been there since August 5th, and so it's just under 2 months that I've been there. On the agenda, it says that it's a presentation. I'm not really presenting anything except for myself to you guys, just to show you who I am and let you know a few things that I have done over the couple of months I've been here, and then to answer any questions that you guys may have for me.
Thank you.
Obviously, you guys, the big thing has been Founders Day. Well, as soon as I walked in August 5th, it's like, okay, we got to get ready for Founders Day. It's the big thing of the year. Let's do that. And I think that it came off without a hitch. We actually went live this year, and we were on the air for a full 8 hours. And everybody that has come up to me says it's a drastic improvement from past years. We will be replaying that probably within the next couple of weeks or so. It's kind of tough taking 8 hours worth of events down to about a 1 or 2 hour show that people will actually watch and enjoy. But we will be doing that with as soon as we roll out the new replay, we'll be rolling out a new look to our website. Our program manager, Roger Froyland, has been working diligently on a new look to the website to make it more friendly for people looking for meetings. And again, Founders Day is going to be the first one that we roll out for the big hurrah for everybody. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, we will be presenting all that stuff to you guys as far as promotions, letting you all know that we're doing it. I could keep going on and on. Some of the things that I've been working on is the inventory. There's a lot of equipment everywhere throughout the studio, throughout the school, throughout the town, and just kind of need a better handle on that. So we've implemented a new inventory system that I'm currently in the process of learning, installing, and getting set so that we can actually do a scan bar scan code type system where I can see exactly who's taking it out. Every member will have a barcode, and it's just a lot easier for tracking purposes. And of course, when it comes audit time and inventory time, as far as getting new equipment and what we need, will be a lot easier to go through that list that way. What else have we done? Candidates night is going to, if there's any candidates night that comes up, we'll be covering those for the upcoming elections. And I don't know if there's any debate scheduled, but if any of those come up, we'll certainly be covering those as well. Basically, some of the things that I've found is there are a lot of events going on in town, multiple events on any given day. There's a lot of buildings that can hold types of press conferences and types of lectures, speaks, so forth. And we're finding that already we kind of missed some, just because we don't have the time to go and look for every single board meeting, every single event, every single thing. So the best way to ask us if we can do stuff is to literally, the second you post it, second you know you have a date, location, time, just give us a call. I'll be giving you guys my business cards at the end of this, so anybody can have it. And again, if you go to saugustv.org or call us at 781-231-2883, we're more than happy to work with you. Obviously, the earlier that we have notice, the better the chances are that we can have coverage for that. Before I go into, the production class, I know that was a big thing that a lot of people wanted to know about. We had about 14, 15 people sign up, and actually 9 showed up and had a ball. We were there for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, doing mock productions. Some people were over at the computers learning some editing. Other people were looking at the field cameras, playing around with them, getting used to it. I think it was a success. Hopefully we'll see some more of that growing. And from here on in, if anybody wants to learn something, say you've missed it, you're now interested, anytime, just call me and we'll set up individual type production classes, and we'll cater them to what you're looking for. If you want to do a studio show, awesome. We'll teach you how to do the studio show. There's really no need to show you the field camera if that's not what you're into. You're not going to do anything outside the studio. And conversely, the same way. Some people might not want to do anything in the studio and would like to do things in the field. So we'll cater to them, pretty much. And anybody can become a member. I don't know if anybody knows that, but as long as you're a Saugus resident, it's free to become a member, and you guys can pretty much create and do whatever you'd like to do. What I've been trying to tell people is we're a vehicle for people. They can get you anywhere you want to go. We can make sure that that car is running, all the tires are all set, the engine's going to start. The only thing we can't do is actually drive the car. You know, that's what you guys are for. It's your production, your type of creation, your creativity, and we want it to be something that you guys are proud of. So we'll show you how to do whatever you want to do, and as long as you follow the rules and the guidelines, you can do it, and we'll show you how to get there. Again, I think I've probably talked more than I wanted to, so if there's any more questions, there's going to be, I'm sure, plenty, so fire away.
Selectman Panetta.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
I have 2 quick questions for you. The first one, you were talking about inventory control.
Yes.
Can you talk about the inventory control that you're working with right now? I do understand that you want to put barcodes, you want to scan, you have the brand-new system that's coming in.
Yep.
And a timeline on when you think that will be completed.
I'm not sure when it's going to be completed. It is going to be a pretty lengthy process because, like I said, the equipment is scattered around the studio, the school, the town.
What's your goal, like a year?
With it under
6 months?
definitely under a year, probably closer to 6 months. I'm trying not to let it go too much farther past the first of the year. We do have a lot of older equipment from the beginning of, I don't want to say the beginning of time, but the beginning of the time with the station, the studio in town. And it's like trying to write an email on an old Apple II GS. It's just, yeah, it might work, but it's not practical for our applications, and it needs to be, I don't think even anybody will want it at this point. It may even need to be scrapped or repurposed in some way, but a lot of that needs to go so we can have the room to make sure that we have everything where we need it and go forward with new purchases.
And my second question was on programming. As you know, the Selectmen, we don't get involved with the programming.
Right.
The programming is your child.
Yep, this is the first time I've met most of you, and those I haven't, you guys just came down just to introduce yourselves. The programming is basically my decision at this point, and it's volunteer-run, membership-run, so I'm not really going to tell anybody, no, you can't. Obviously, as long as you follow the rules and the guidelines that are set, you can pretty much do and say what you need and what you want. But you guys aren't telling me. You guys aren't telling me. I pretty much work under the board, and if there's any of those questions, you kind of would have to ask the board as far as program stuff. But it's all volunteer, and the more that the citizens of the town get involved, the more the programming will be.
But have you added any additional programs in the last couple of months since you've been here?
Oh, yes, there have been a few. There's one that's actually on the government channel called In the Fight. I got the right to, hold on one second here. It is from dvidshub.net, and it's actually a video distribution system from the Department of Defense. And it's a show called In the Fight, and basically what it shows is it's a monthly half-hour military programming showing people overseas and what they do. And how they live their day-to-day operations. It's not gory battle, fighting. It's just the struggles that people go on, and what the military life is like for people overseas. That was actually come from a request in town that wanted to have the EPA climate change PSAs that were also on that channel to be run. So we're running those sporadically through cable casting through the community bulletin board. There's going to be a few more that we're going to be taking from something called PEG Media, which is a hub website that a lot of the other PEG access stations around the region have put up, and even the nation actually have put up on this website, and you can download them for like a small fee, like 50 cents just for administration purposes or what have you, but we can air those things. Akin to the Garage that you see. I've added the Steve Katzo show that comes out of, I believe, Arlington or Abington, one of the two. I believe it's Arlington. And it's like a late-night talk show, almost like a Jay Leno type show. You guys want to check that out on Channel 8. I don't know, I see that you have the program schedules in front of you.
It looks like it's pretty jam-packed.
Yes, we've segregated a lot of the things, like NASA is now going to be only on educational channel, so that's not on, and that makes more room for a lot more programming. We've heard a lot of people like the old-time TV shows that we can get in the public domain, like the Jack Benny Show, and what else was it? Ozzie and Harriet, we're starting to air again. The 4 o'clock movie, we've brought that back up where it's older public domain movies that we can run on Fridays at 4. So it's kind of a nice little treat for kids that come after school and all that. We've also, I've ramped up if you look on the Channel 22 program schedule, I've ramped up the high school varsity sports coverage. Hopefully I can get at least 1 or 2 games out of every sport per season and air that on the educational channel a few times during the week so that people that are even in the game can see what they did. We've also got a couple of producers of Saugus citizen member volunteers that are in the middle of trying to put some stuff together. One girl wants to put a movie together, which is pretty impressive, and she's getting rights to use copyrighted music. So that should be kind of neat. I think it's pretty daunting for a first project, but we'll see how it comes out. And then we have someone taping the Saugus Pop Warner games, the football games. He comes in, he showed me that he knows how to use a camera. He's a freshman in high school, and he takes the camera out. He shot 4 games 2 weeks ago and came back with 4 games, just slapped them right on, put them right up on Channel 8 because the public is the one that's taping that. So you guys can all see those. He did come back this week, and there was only 1 game. The other 3 got rained out, so, that's what that is. But yes, we're trying to ramp up the programming as much as possible, and it'll only get bigger and better as the more volunteer-based and the membership grows.
Thank you.
Okay. Selectman Mitchell.
I just was wondering, is the high school involved in any way? Some of the students used to have a program they would do, and they used to come in and use some of the equipment.
Yep, we've been working with Ken Webb, is the video teacher over at the high school. And we've been working with him all through the summer, trying to figure out what we can do for each other and work. He has had his class come down and take a look at the studio and see what we have and what our abilities are. He's had his after-school class come down and take a look and do all that. And I guess in years past, the video teacher and the journalism teacher had worked together so that they could videotape lectures, or mock, what were they? Mock press conference. And they did this, for some reason, those classes weren't in the same period this year. So we've been working with the journalism teacher as well, and she was actually in this afternoon, busted it right out. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Selectman Horlick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you also explain to the board, I know there's a new audio system you're trying to put in the library, because a lot of the meetings over there, it's very difficult to try to hear the audio when they're in the conference room. There's supposed to be a new sound system you're supposed to be looking at?
It wasn't really a new sound system that we put in. I used the microphones that we had left over and kind of mic'd it a lot better, similar to what we have here, where each person or two people have share a microphone, and it's hooked up to an audio board, and that gets a better sound than just the one microphone that was used before. There was talk previously of also outfitting that community room with the dome-type cameras that are in this room. I don't know where that stands at this point. I think it's a good use because we've already done 2 or 3 things in that room. And if you do the math on how many meetings are in there, it's going to get used. We're going to do at least 36 tapings in there a year. So,
Which is pretty good.
right. So depending on how things go with budgets and how people want, what people want, I would like to see that outfitted as well. But that's at the pleasure of the board.
So once all the inventory is done, you were talking about the barcode, even like these mics would have a barcode.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
so that way there you could scan them and find out when they were put into service. If they were ever broken or taken out of service, you
Absolutely.
can automatically scan them and say, okay, now that equipment has been placed on the deactive list, or now it's been disposed of because it no longer works.
Absolutely.
And there was another thing that you had brought up about those episodes. I was actually on the web, I was looking at that system, and they're between 59 and 69 cents on average that you can get. There's like tens of thousands of like movies and then other shows that you can get and download them once,
Yep.
and you only pay the 59, 69 cents. So if you wanted to, you could actually, change everything. Like every month, you could run a different series on it. We're only talking a few dollars a month.
And
on the budget.
that's generally going to be the plan going forward, is there'll be, the beginning of the month will be the debut month, and there'll be things, if the monthly series will all be, the new debut will be at the first week of the month. Some shows that are weekly, obviously, will be a weekly show, and some shows it might be a bi-weekly basis. But yes, definitely want to get into a better habit of rotating these shows, so it's not the same show for, a month and a half, 2 months before somebody says, hey, I've seen this a bunch of times, change it. Okay, we'll do that. No, we were going to take a proactive approach to that, just like any other network, and have debut, whatever week whatever day that show debuts, it'll be in that week.
And then most communities that I have checked with have a fee to join. Either it's a single membership, a family membership, or even some communities like Wakefield, we'll have a membership for a business. So Saugus
Right.
is pretty good, not charging anybody to join.
It's very good. I've never heard of
About
it.
90% of them out there charge a minimum of $20 to $30 a year
Correct.
for a single membership, and then it only goes up for there. So that's good, that it's no cost to the residents. So all they would have to do is just come down and just show you a driver's license or whatever they had, that they live in Saugus, and fill out the form and then sign up, and then they could take the production classes and then just go from there and just learn how to use the equipment, and then go out and film everything, come back, and then they could just finish it from there and
Yeah,
put it on the
you
air.
just explained it better than I could.
yeah.
And you can go even further than that. They can come back and they can schedule editing time with us. We'll show them how to use the computers. And again, they'll be the ones driving the car. They'll be having their hands on the mouse and the fingers on the keyboard. We'll be there alongside you for the first few productions, 6 months, a year. But at some point, you'll get it, it'll click, and you can just say, hey, I'm over here on the computer, I'll be here for a few hours. Okay.
Because I know it costs money when you're looking at
Yes,
paying
exactly.
people
That's why I
between
brought it up.
16 to $18 an hour, and if you have these people not there doing something for 7, 8 hours, then they're out, and then they come back, you could be looking at spending $150 to $300 of studio personnel money to produce a show.
Right, exactly.
And then put it on the air, and after a while, that starts to add up, because while that person is not in the studio doing the work that you have listed for them to do,
Right.
everything starts to get backlogged. And the only way
Exactly.
to overcome that is you would have to have a bigger budget and then hire more people. But if you're going to hire people just the sole purpose of it to be outside, then some places I did call say that they do charge only if it's a town event, and they will allow people to give them help. Say if you were going to do a certain show and there's no way you could cover it yourself, that they would actually help you. Like if you were going to do something as far as for a playoff and you were going to go somewhere, they would actually give them help to send a person out with a camera along with you and a camera, and then they would give you help for doing something like that. So
Absolutely, that's how it all goes, and that's why I brought up that anybody can be a member, any resident, and there's no cost to them. I come from, I never lived in Marblehead, but I worked previously for 13 years in Marblehead at their Access Studio, and there was always a fee, whether it was run by Comcast or now they're nonprofit. So it's a great opportunity for anybody in town.
thank you.
There is cost for other, if you don't live in town and you're a business, there's a small fee and so forth, there's some staggered fees. But for a Saugus resident and you show me proof of residency and show me you know how to camera, you're free to go.
Well, that's like in other communities when I was calling up, they'll put a program on from somebody that doesn't live there as long as somebody sponsors it.
That's another good point, the
Somebody
sponsor
has to
program.
sponsor it for the content in case somebody is upset by
Right.
by that. They can say, well, here's the person that sponsored the program, then that person takes sole responsibility for the content of that show when it's up there.
Again, for most of the programming, I really shouldn't be making any decisions on, yes, this should be aired, no, this shouldn't be aired. The way it goes is somebody would come up to me and say, hey, I've got this program somebody made, I think it's really good, I'm a member of, I live in Saugus, I'd like to see it on our TV. They don't have to become a member and a volunteer that are running cameras. They can just say, I'd like to see this. They fill out a sponsor form, and now they're the ones that ask for it. That way, no matter what it is, if somebody calls me and says, hey, I don't like what they're saying, it's not mine. You have to talk to somebody else who's producing it. If you have any questions, it's theirs. So it almost kind of, not washes our hands, but it kind of keeps us a little bit out of everybody else's doings. Yeah. As long as we're here to do the community outreach, the community coverage, and keep the whole station running afloat, that's what we're there for.
Yeah. I want to
Brian,
thank
you
you,
don't,
too.
you
Thank
don't mind if I cut you short? We're running.
No,
late.
I'm
I'm all
like I
set,
said,
Mr. Chairman, thank
Okay,
you.
any other questions? If not, Brian, thank you
Good
for
luck with
being
everything.
here
yeah,
tonight.
no problem. I'd just like to give you guys my business card before I leave. That way, you have my phone number, my email.
And welcome to Saugus, and I can see the improvement in the programming already, so you're doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good night.
Mr. Greenwich.
No. No, we have business to do tonight. No, I'm not entertaining any questions right now. Next on the agenda, I know we have the Executive Director of the Fire Department here tonight, so I'm going to take him out of order regarding correspondence number 8, the town meeting article.
Mr. Chairman, just recently, his title has changed. He's actually the Deputy Chief.
Deputy Chief.
We created a exam position within the fire department for more stability, and very happy that it's an exam position. He examined very well.
Congratulations, Mike. I'm sure your father will be proud of you. And welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Manager and members of the board.
Great, thank you.
I'm here tonight because I want you to respectfully ask you to put into the next special town meeting an article to reinstitute a fee for the municipal fire alarm system in Saugus. In 2006, in earnest, the town made a decision to transfer from a hardwired to a radio master box system in town. And this system here cost the town tens of thousands of dollars to install. There's 15 town-owned buildings in town, of which $60,000 was spent in the town's funds to put this equipment into these buildings. And also, I believe there's 5 housing authority buildings that also have those in there. So I think we're into that for about $80,000. There are 2 receivers in the dispatch center. Each one of those cost $27,000. Those were donated by the company that initially put the equipment into the town. But those pieces of equipment are now showing wear and tear after 6-7 years of use. Since I've been in fire prevention in the past 2 years, there's been $15,000 worth of repairs to the hardwired system that we just deactivated, I believe, in the last 3 months. Not only that, I got a correspondence from this board last September 26th, and it stated that there were utility transfers. The National Grid is upgrading the infrastructure in town, and I believe there was 25 poles from Walnut Street down Central to right here in front of the town hall that the wire, which is now disabled and deactivated, needed to be removed for the National Grid to upgrade their infrastructure. That cost was $4,000 to the town. So at this point in the past year or so, we're into the repairs for $20,000 on this system. Since I've deactivated the system, I got a quote, and nobody would bid on these systems, as the manager knows, and others. No one would bid on to remove the infrastructure. I got a quote for $14,000 just to remove the boxes off the telephone poles in that defunct system. So what I did is go out with a Sawzall and cut them down myself to try to save the town a little money here. But before we went to the radio system, the hardwired system, each business, of which there's 133 businesses that ring through to the system, paid a fee of $325 a year to a private company up in Georgetown. And what they did is they collected that fee year after year, and they provided the service to the town for free. Essentially, there was no cost to the town to maintain that hardwired system. Well, now the intent of the transfer to the radio box system was to have no cost to the town. And as you see, since 11/11, we've had 20, if not $40,000 worth of expenses, if I hadn't cut down those boxes. That being said, we know now that there is an enormous project going on with National Grid upgrading all these poles. They're bringing the poles up higher. This wire is still sitting down there. They won't touch it. National Grid, Verizon, Comcast, they won't touch this wire. There's going to be costs associated moving forward, even though it's disabled. And not only that, we have to protect the investment with the town-owned buildings and the receivers that are sitting in the dispatch center. So I was hoping that the board would put this to the town meeting, and I'd be able to give the opportunity to go and speak on this in front of them.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to add to this,
Manager.
one of the things that I guess for the conceptual to understand is that the radio boxes, if you own a business or a commercial building, the way it is now, they are provided with fire protection in the sense of that if they have a fire or something is activated, that's automatically sent to the fire station and get a response. Unlike somebody's home or residence or whatever, most residents have may have an
A monthly fee.
Yeah, the ADT system where they're paying a private company that would do that. Right now, the town is involved in this, and probably what should have happened planning-wise is that, and I think other communities, we've discussed this, is sort of when other communities have phased out, is that these businesses and commercial properties were paying, say, $325 a year annually to be able to have this system wired to the fire station so that they would have fire protection that's real-time. In changing that, for whatever reason, the fee should have been sort of, hey, we're going to a radio box, and now the fee will be, let's say, $200 or some other fee associated with it for that service and protection that they're getting. In other words, we have to maintain the system, like he said, inside the fire station, which is now going on how many years old?
7 years old.
7 years old. So that system that actually receives that has to be maintained and upgraded and whatnot, and that's a cost to the town, and it's providing really a private service to the commercial buildings so that they have, if an alarm is triggered, it's directly sent by radio right to the fire department, whereas other people pay a service to a private company like ADT if you're a residence or a business. So I think that's the importance of, sort of, it's a fee that would actually help us maintain. In other words, it's not a revenue generating, but it's a break even or, to pay for itself, a maintenance.
Yeah, the manager's
That helps
definitely
explain
correct.
it.
This is more of a maintenance fee than anything. The $325 that they paid to the private company was a maintenance fee for all the wire. What happened was, when I took over fire prevention 13 months ago, there was only 12 businesses left on that system. So we were only generating roughly $4,000 to $5,000 a year. And the manager's actually very correct when he says that if you go to ADT or another local vendor here, you're paying $35 a month for a monitored fire alarm system. The industry standard is a 90-second turnaround, so we are actually providing the best service to these businesses, where it's an instantaneous alarm coming into the department. So in essence, if they did not have this system, it would be $500 a year for these people to ring in through ADT or the like.
Which is a third party, which there's always problems with that. This
Yeah.
is a direct service that goes right to the fire department and they're dispatched immediately. But
Essentially, a tree branch could knock down what they have, and the tree branches are the problems out there. And not only that, we're going to incur costs as a town moving forward just to remove the disabled wire. I've tried time and time again to get the utility companies to take it down, but there's, union issues there. So, I may come back at some other point and talk to you about that moving forward, but I was hoping to push this through and be able to speak to the town meeting and maybe get a vote on this. It's not something like under Mass General Law 148 where the chief can institute a fee up to $50 for certain services that we provide as fire prevention. This is something that needs the weight of town bylaw, so when occupancy permits or things like that come up, we can collect the fee for the maintenance. It's not something that the chief can just do and institute on his own.
Selectman Panetta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know, for example, Linfield charges $250 for a master box fee. What do other communities charge?
It's between $200 and $600 a year, believe it or not. I surveyed the local communities, obviously, before I went through this. I have 1,000 hours invested in this, at least in the past year. And the most common fee is about $250, and that's a fair. We're asking for $200, which equates to about $15, $18 a month to monitor that business. But Somerville, they'll charge $600 for the monitoring fee. Then they'll charge them $200, $300 just to go open it up so they can work on the system. So we're not looking to make a money off of it. What we want to do is protect our infrastructure, especially in buildings like this, and especially the receivers in the dispatch center. I mean, we have to have redundancy due to NFPA standards and stuff like that. So we're into that machine for $54,000, and it is showing signs of wear and tear. We pay $1,000 a year just for the paper that it rings through. So I just want to let you know that there are constant costs associated with this, and I'm just trying to protte the town's
And not to mention, Mr. Chairman, not to mention the service itself, because if some of these buildings that, as you know, when the board entertains some of these applicants, that, the request and the recommendation from the fire department is that they put in a radio box, and I know we've dealt with this issue when I was on the board, and you deal with it. But if these buildings that are being recommended to have this, or do have them, actually do have a live fire, you're talking about a neighborhood and any surrounding buildings that are at risk of real danger, and I think that's the importance of the service that's actually provided.
Mr. Chairman?
Selectman Horlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to say, congratulations, well-deserved.
Thank you.
I'm sure everybody's proud of you for where you come in the fire department from where you started.
I appreciate that.
I remember about 6 years ago when we were first getting into this after it got started, the former fire chief was with the town manager, and I know it came up to the board where we couldn't put it into the Board of Selectmen's fees because it was a whole different category, like you said. And I know at that time that he was concerned about it, like, it's the same thing as his saying was, why are you going to, fix a radio on something when the fire truck has no tires, when we had an issue with a fire truck. And it's the same thing as that, why are you going to put this system up there if after 10 years it's going to deteriorate to the point where now we're going to have to replace it or do the maintenance on it? And I know that was his concern back then, but but we never could get anything put in through the former administration to do that. So I want to thank you for bringing this forward. So at least now, when we do the maintenance on it, when it comes up, we can at least now cover our costs on that, because a lot of these other devices are also exposed to the elements outside. So as you get the snow and the ice and the weather, a lot of them will start deteriorating. And we all know, 5 or 7 or 10 years in New England weather does a job on a lot of things.
Exactly, and a lot of the commercial properties in town are getting that more so than the dispatch center, because that's, obviously protected from the elements, but you'll see the antennas leaning over, the snow and ice gets inside of them, and so on and so forth. The long and the short of it, these systems cost the town $4,000 a piece to put into the buildings, and that's what you're getting to replace them. Anything, as you know, being in a repair business like this, the circuit boards, these things break, the printer, the little doohickeys that spin the paper and things like that, they break over time. And so what we're looking to do is just make sure that our investment is protected. The onus was supposed to be put onto the business owners, and we haven't realized that savings yet. Obviously, if we're into it for nearly $20,000 in repairs in the past year and a half, that the fee should have been instituted in the beginning. And I'm glad to be here today to present a fair fee and not something that's really up like Somerville or something like that for $600 a year.
Well, anything you have outside, once you break the seal and you start to get any type of moisture in there, then you start to get corrosion, and then that's where you start to get into problems. Plus, anything, as you say, that actually turns, you actually have parts that physically wear out that need to have, bushings replaced, or it has to be lubed. The stuff that turns, it'll physically can only turn so many times, and then it just fails, because that's all you can get. It's like a car engine. So many miles on it, it turns so much, and then that's it. It's all over. So I want to thank you for bringing this forward.
You don't mind if we wrap this up, do you?
Yeah, all set.
Chief? Thank you, Deputy Chief Newberry, appreciate it. And I need a motion to insert this into the
moved,
next
Mr.
special
Chairman.
town meeting. Selectman Castanetti makes a motion to insert this article into the next special town meeting, seconded by the chair, which should be around November. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0.
Thank you for the
Okay,
opportunity.
thank you, Mike. Next on the agenda, I'd like to go to citizens forum. I see a town meeting member here, Mr. Manugian. He's first on the list. Request for a crosswalk on Lincoln Avenue, Guile Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and
welcome.
gentlemen of the board. With me earlier this evening was Mr. and Mrs. Driscoll, who first brought this issue forward, but she had to leave because of a work commitment. But clearly, it's my understanding that the traffic safety officer has corresponded to you that he has no problem with this crosswalk. And speaking to him earlier this evening, I believe he fully endorses having it there as well, and I'm sure he can speak for himself on that. But the area is at the intersection or the corner of Guile Road, Lincoln Avenue, and the request is to have a crosswalk go across Lincoln where there is a MBTA bus stop and also a school bus stop for students. The request, as I stated, was brought to me by Mrs. Driscoll, and I looked at the area and it seems it makes abundant sense. Guile Road, as you know, it's the outflow for Richard Street, Gates Road, Douglas. There's an MBTA bus stop across the street. There's a student bus stop across the street. There are new sidewalk handicap ramps at the Little Brook Garden Center going across Guile Road, and this whole area is slated for within 2 years to have new sidewalks from that entire side of Lincoln Avenue. So it does make sense to do it now, and the hope is that your board will move to request the town manager and subsequently DPW to get this done as soon as possible, because there are a number of pedestrians crossing there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manager, can you try to see if the DPW can take care of that? I appreciate it.
Do we need to make that in the form of a motion, Mr.
If you-
Chairman?
if you- Oh, I'm sorry, Sergeant, I didn't see you.
I just wanted to go on record. I did speak with Mr. Manugi, and I did a survey of that area, and we're totally in support of, I believe it's an appropriate place to put that crosswalk. So the police department is 100% for it. We just want to go on record with that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you-
Selectman Pennedy, you want a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that in the form of a motion to have our town manager requesting a crosswalk to be put on Lincoln Ave at Guild Road.
Okay, and that is seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Thank you. Good night. Next, I'd like to take up, just for the board's knowledge, what I'm trying to do here is take up department heads, town meeting members, and boards first. And then I'd just like to take out of order correspondence. Number 7, the Saugus Cable Television Station, their budget. I seen the chairman of the board here tonight. Hi, how are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Hi,
members
how
of
are
the
you?
board.
Okay, Mr. Petridge, you have the budget for next year's SCTS, if you wanted to go over it. Appreciate it.
Starting off with the first number on your sheet, you'll see a projected salaries and payroll expenses of $180,840. Projected expenses are going to be $34,220. Page 2, there is an individual breakdown. Consultants, contract, and legal of $12,000. Utilities and maintenance, $9,220. Operational expenses of $6,000. Equipment expenses, $7,000. Page 3, salaries, $164,078. Other payroll expenses of $14,886, and the payroll service that does the payroll is Mass Payroll Company, Inc., $1,876. I'll be glad to answer any questions relevant to individual breakdowns if there's any members that have such.
Just one
Chairman.
quick, Selectman Cassidy.
Can you explain the legal fees, please?
Can I explain them?
Yeah.
Specifically what, sir?
What are they going to?
Right now, the only legal fees that we've incurred have been with the appeal from Mr. Garabedian, the last operations manager that was discharged. Beyond that, it was legal services with regards to leading up to the investigation of the incidents that we felt need to be brought forward relevant to his performance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just, Chris, on the legal fees, that went down from 15,000 down to 5,000.
Excuse me?
The legal fees from last year was 15,000, that dropped down to 5.
Yeah, no, right.
Is that correct?
We're still in the first of the town since taking over fiscal as of October 1. We're projecting probably another $5,000. Most of the legal fees will have transpired during this current fiscal year, which will end as of October 1.
And we would, we're operating, I think one of the salary positions has been eliminated.
You want an individual assessment on that?
The production director, right?
Correct.
That position's been eliminated?
Yep.
Okay.
It wasn't eliminated. The gentleman in question
He left.
went on to another endeavor. I believe it was in Reading, and the duties have been picked up by the operations manager and the other employees, the program director and the two other folks that we have there right now.
Any other questions by board members?
One other. So there was really nothing else besides
Selectman
legal that was significant in terms of a change to your budget from the year prior?
Well, what I would call significant is it's been pared down greatly since the first budget going back to the nonprofit. There was just a ton, to say the least, of bloated, excessive, and frankly duplicated proposals relevant to the budget, up in the $300,000 range, and then operating, in a minus deficit fact. I will just simply tell you that between last year and this year, the proposition of putting forth a best-case scenario because of the figures that had to be gathered from what the previous operations manager / executive director had done, we had proposed roughly out of an approximate $360,000 revenue, which is 4 times the quarterly number. That number has increased, and again, will always fluctuate based on the subscribership to Comcast. But looking at roughly $90,000 was our only projection at the time, which would come 4 ways to $360,000. We had projected salaries of last year of $248,040.00. We had projected expenses of $57,350. I will just tell you that projected expenses, because we looked at it as best we could, because some of the figures were just way the hell out of whack, to be quite honest with you. We are right now, from October 1 of 12 till approximately 2 days ago, our projected expenses were $57,000. We are currently, total expenses that we've paid out to date, up through last Friday, was $54,447. So we're within $3,000 of our projection. If you look to this year, our projection is even less, because once we got into the minutiae of everything, we found that there was still some bloated, it was just, the figures didn't match what the reality was. There were things that were being purchased, money spent that absolutely didn't have to be done. That's why we're down to $34,220. But if I were to give you, for your information, if you so desire, the money is represented in the account right now. We have, in our operating account, we have $157,072.83. The Saugus Bank payroll account, it's $18,170 in the payroll account. Webster First Credit Union, we have a CD of $207,883.08, and that matures February 8th of 2014. That's a 12-month note with rollover. And at the Saugus Bank, we have another $102,663.98, and that matures on 2/7/14. That's also a 12-month CD note, and that's also with rollover. That amount initially, going back several years, was a $200,000 and a $100,000 was put in, and between the two of them, they've gained roughly roughly $10,000 in short change. I will say that, for a volunteer board, and I'm not tooting any horn, we took it on, we're asked to do something, and we did it. And when you find certain things that are just right in front of you, and you start chasing things down, you're going to find that, what you think is sometimes isn't, and that's why we've worked our best to do this. We will have a final figure once we get from the accountant, probably sometime in the middle of October, maybe the 1st of November, what the final figures for the year will be. But I'm going to guess with what our projections was last year, the payroll numbers are going to be down, and the expenses are going to be pretty much very close, probably within 1,000 or 2 of what our projection was.
Okay, thank you.
Question, follow-up?
Selectman Panetta.
So if
Also, there's just one other piece of information. In the town account, where the money comes from Comcast, the direct deposit that goes to the town, and the town holds it in escrow in the treasurer's account, earmarked for Saugus Cable Television Station, there is roughly $479,197. And that money has been coming in, and again, the numbers are up because of Comcast, the subscribership. The latest deposit was $98,000. So again, that could be as little as maybe 95 or 96, and maybe more, again, based on what you have with subscriptions. So you have roughly 500,000 that's in the town account that none of which has been turned over to SCTV on a daily operating basis, because we don't need it. There is plenty of money there to operate, and as I say, we have, as I stated before, we're going to look at probably out of the yearly operating money that was coming to us of roughly $360,000. Our projection this year is to have somewhere in the vicinity of about $150,000, in surplus. Should we run into a catastrophe or a major capital improvement relevant to equipment and so forth, we will have that. Should the station get very, very busy, there is a potential, and we've had discussions with the new operations manager because of how much he wants to expand. There'll be more than enough money for payroll. We won't need to come to the town for anything additional. We'll have what we have to operate without any problems at all.
Any other questions?
Yes, I want to, I just, you said the numbers very fast, so I just want to make sure that I took everything down correctly.
Go ahead.
Okay, when I added up your operating account, your payroll account, and the two CDs, it comes out to about $485,000, and then there's $479,000 in the town account.
Okay.
Earmarked.
All right, currently, right now, to include the CDs, the money that's in the treasurer's account, Saugus account,
Yep.
And the monies that we currently have on hand. We've got the two CD notes and the monies that we have right now that are in the two bank accounts, one operation, one payroll. We have $485,000, and then with the $479,000, if
Right.
you add them together, you're over $900,000.
Right, well, that's what I took down
And
from,
again,
I just wanted to double-check my
No,
numbers.
That number is correct, and again, looking at what might happen with the high school, we've been looking ahead as to what contingency might be necessary relevant to a new studio, based on what the plans would or wouldn't be for the high school, but there certainly is enough money to operate, and again, we're keeping things right to the bone.
Right,
We're
when you-
very much prepared to go forward on additional help if it's hired. There is money already there right now.
When you said that you're waiting for final numbers from the quote-unquote accountant, are you talking about your auditors?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
because-
Powers and Sullivan has been doing the work.
Right.
And the recommendation from the town that they're fairly reputable and they're pretty much right on the money.
Right, I was the first person to engage with them
Yep.
back when I was on the board, so no, I know how reputable they are. But you just said accountant, I just wanted to make sure that I understood that you meant Powers and Sullivan.
Powers and Sullivan
And-
final figures in October or 1st of November.
Exactly, and lastly, you have an admin on board for 24 hours, and I know that the person who had that job before was working full-time. Is the 25 hours enough time?
Well, you said an admin?
Probably the clerk's
An
job.
admin assistant, administrative assistant?
Joanne.
Ms. Marabello?
Yeah.
Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yes. Is my question just is simply, is 25 hours enough time to do the work that she needs to do?
More than sufficient.
Okay, because,
More than sufficient.
okay, just,
You know, she looks for additional things to do.
Good.
So, no, she's very capable, and again, it's a blessing to have somebody that can produce with a computer and a good background knowledge, but, you know, more than sufficient. She's very happy with what she's doing, and she always looks for extra things.
perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Not to have a motion and a vote that budget. For salary and expenses, $180,840, and expenses, $34,220.
I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented this evening.
Selectman Panetta makes a motion to accept the budget, seconded by the chair. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Chris, for your hard work.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next on the agenda, is there anybody here from Verizon? Verizon, anybody here from Verizon? You here? Does the board mind if we take that? I mean, it's been an hour, we're running late because of all the invited guests, and they've been waiting an hour. Does the board mind if we take that up, then we'll go back to correspondence?
Take what up?
Public hearing,
No,
the
no,
805?
I think we should do them.
Huh?
Yeah, let's get them done, yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to take the 805 public hearing off the table.
Selectman Panetta makes a motion to take the 805 public hearing off the table, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Is there anybody here from Verizon?
Mr. Chairman, you have an 8 o'clock one first.
Yeah, but that has to do with Sergeant Van Steensberg, so he's going to be here all night
I see.
anyhow.
Okay. All
You know
right,
what I
all
mean? Verizon? Want to come on up, give your name and address to our clerk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name's Everett Bryan, I'm a right-of-way manager representing Verizon New England at 459 Main Street in Saugus. Our
Good evening.
petition this evening is to relocate a pole on Winter Street at the intersection with Rivercrest Circle. Rivercrest Circle had a new curb cut there, and the existing pole is now out within the traveled way, and it needs to be relocated behind the curb as it exists now. So we need to move it about 25 feet, more or less, from its present location back into the sidewalk area there. There's no sidewalk in there. It's just dirt now.
And that's a pole located on Winter Street on that new development where the cul-de-sac is.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions from board members? If not, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor or opposed to this application? If not, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Selectman Castanetti makes a motion to close the public hearing, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Selectman Castanetti.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to grant to Verizon permission to relocate one jointly owned pole, number P3-40, together with the wires, cables, anchors, guides, and necessary equipment and fixtures on Winter Street as shown in Plan Number 4, dated 8/26/13.
Okay, and that is seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Sorry
Thank you, Mr.
for
Chairman.
the wait.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry, I know it's after the fact. Sir, I'm sorry, I should have asked the question earlier, but when do you propose that you're going to be making this change?
As soon as possible, as soon as I can schedule it, because the existing pole, like I said, is within the traveled way, even though I don't think the homes are built or
Okay, so
occupied
the
in it
plans are
yet.
to do this immediately?
As soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to go back to correspondence, and then we'll go to continued public hearings. Correspondence number 1, the Rotary Club is looking for a street banner on November 6th on Main Street until December 6th.
So moved,
Is there anybody here from the Rotary before we vote this? No? Okay, Selectman Horlick?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. I'll grant the request.
Selectman Horlick makes a motion to approve the request, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing speaking on that. The Rotary Club has been doing this for a number of years, and it's a good event. If you get a chance to, there's a lot of great items that they have there, and they used to do it live on TV here in the town hall for many years, and it was a 2-day event, and since then they moved it to a 1-day event. And if you're looking for a lot of great items for Christmas or for birthdays, the Rotary Club has a lot of businesses in town that make a lot of donations to them. So if you get a chance, please go by there and please spend some money. Thank
It's a
you.
lot of fun, too.
Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda is number 3, Hometown Pizza. Is there anybody here from Hometown Pizza? Hi, you want to come on up? Okay, looking for another request for termination.
Yes.
Is the property owner here? Property owner here tonight?
Yes, I am.
Oh, hi, how are you? Good. Could you please give your name and address to our clerk?
My name is Joe Ananian. My office is at 1 Essex Street in Saugus.
Hi, how are you?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair,
Okay.
Mr. Manager, and Madam Clerk. It's nice to see you. I've never been before you before. But before we speak and say anything, may I just ask if you've been persuaded behind the scenes, I won't say another word, if you've been persuaded behind the scenes that there are alternatives to closing him down?
This board does, I'm insulted by your comment, number 1. This board does nothing behind the scenes. I'm insulted by the letter that you sent, and there's nothing that's been done behind the scenes. The only thing I did, I spoke to town council about your request for another determination by this board. And this board, the only option you would have is you could have went to Superior Court to file an objection to our decision. On number 2, you can file another application. But there is no process, well, why you're on the agenda here. And
All right.
I did speak to
May I
our clerk about
apologize if
that.
you took it for, I meant behind the scenes in that I thought you met prior to tonight's meeting I thought that's what you do. I thought you perhaps met before you come in public, but that's what I meant. So I apologize when I said behind the scenes.
Apology accepted.
But I do want to say that it was, I thought, pretty obvious that he's not the property owner, and yet you're asking him to make changes to an external, something outside of his control. I was never noticed to appear, so I'm not sure how this decision was made without noticing me. Can someone answer that?
No, those are our rules and regs, and this is what we've been doing. But in my opinion, it's the property owner's responsibility to decide whether they want to invest in their property, which would be an asset in the end, to install an external grease trap. It shouldn't be up to the business owner to do that. That's your decision whether you want an establishment in there, a restaurant establishment. That's a decision you're going to have to make. And that's that.
All right, I have a few things I'd like to just say if I could, and that is that I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact that this was totally a turnkey change. The gentleman that's standing right beside me here came in and he's running with the same name, he's running with the same equipment. Everything is virtually the same cash register, same beverage cooler, everything is the same. The only thing that's going to be different is he's going to have less hours. He will not be open on Sunday. He's an ordained minister, and on Sundays he has a higher calling, and he has other obligations. So he's actually going to have less waste going through his waste lines. But what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, is that this decision or this request for a reconsideration is not something that you're going to vote on or consider tonight at all. Is that what I understand?
Yes, we don't have any authority. If you wanted to refile and put in another request and another public hearing, then you have that option.
Quite respectfully, if I could, my understanding is the Board of Selectmen are the chief policymakers in this town, and I understand you would have the discretion to reconsider a decision that you made without the property owner, the actual person that's going to be affected, having been before you. Unless we want to look at another situation like it happened at Hoffman's across the street from my building. Hoffman's, the old Hoffman's, was empty for some 10 years. If he abandons this property because you're asking him to make a $50,000 renovation, that's frankly out of his control that I never got to present anything about, then would you like another skateboard shop in Cliftondale Square? I mean, that was a big hit. There's several things that I'd like to just say, but first of all, about his character. He's done a tremendous job, and I wasn't aware of the fact that he hadn't gotten his permit approved. He called in all the town authorities. They came through one after another, and it's in his letter. They came in and everybody said, "Oh, this looks great. Never seen the place so clean." We had two different insurance people through. And both of them said they've never seen such a clean pizza parlor. And I mean, I guess you're saying that there's nothing that you can vote on, but I frankly think you do have the authority to overrule that, or at least to postpone it. I'm asking you to reconsider. November 20th is a death sentence. It's as simple as that. I think I explained in my letter that, unfortunately, you found as an insult. I don't know why. I was being very candid, telling you that it's an impossibility. We can't put this external grease trap on the front sidewalk, so we have a front of the building, and that's where the main sewage goes out, and we're surrounded by granite, and you're asking my tenant to put in a $30,000 external grease trap when he's running the exact same operation. There's been a food service business there since before this building was even built in 1875. I understand that there's always been a food service business there. So, and then just one last thing. I mean, you're not going to be voting on this, but He didn't have an interpreter the last time he came here, and I understand in speaking with him over all of this time that I've been meeting with him, he doesn't speak English very well, and yet he came here without counsel, he came here without an interpreter, without the property owner present, because he didn't know that the property owner should have been present. Everybody had told him that everything looked satisfactory. And I'm not going to name names, but there were people that work for the town. He already probably, I hope you mentioned the names the last time. They were all through, one after another. They came through and they said, this looks spectacular. You'll sail through. There won't be any problem. That's what he's told me after the fact. Am I right?
Yeah.
So he didn't have an interpreter. Nothing was right about that. And on top of it all, he's a great guy. You guys, we're going to lose out. If he leaves on November 20th, we're all going to lose. I mean, I'm going to probably end up trying to rent it to an office, or I'm certainly not going to go the route of a bookstore or all the other things that have failed in Cliftondale Square. And the one last thing is, if we're going to do this, and if this is truly a serious enough matter to put him out of business, or if this is, I'm going to say if this is, if this is a serious enough matter to put him out of business, then let's look at it. I kind of lost my thought there for a second. Wait a minute. Oh.
Can you just kind of wrap it up in a few minutes?
Sure.
I believe, like I said, the boards cannot make that decision. The town council recommended that you'd have to reapply for the waiver.
So what you're saying is that he can, I was going to say, if you could at least postpone this.
We can't take any action tonight because
you can't take any action.
You have to re-advertise, and if you want the board to consider or postpone or take any other action.
So
That's
okay, I know what I was going to say.
Town council's ruling.
What I was going to say is that if people don't request a transfer of management, if they stay under the radar, companies that are just doing far more business than he is in Cliftondale Square or all over Saugus, then they don't have to have this external grease trap. I don't care if they're running a whatever kind of business it is. But because he's coming before the board asking for, he's not doing major renovations, he's not changing the name, he's not a startup business. I understand just last week, a startup business came before you and you waived the need for an external grease trap. I didn't understand how come that was going to happen, wasn't going to happen to him. A startup business. There was a karate store in there, and now all of a sudden there's a restaurant going in. He's been there, and his business is spotless.
What I would do is, if you want, you can refile, and then we're kind of arguing a case here where the board can't even make a decision until you either refile for an application. So personally, I think we're kind of like wasting our time discussing the ins and outs of it, but the board...
All right, if you want to say you're insulted, I'm insulted. I'm wasting your time.
I'd like to finish, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And
that's what you want me to do is refile?
Excuse me, that's the decision of town council.
Or go to Superior Court?
Or go to Superior Court.
And waste everybody's time?
Yeah, and just to add on, I mean, I don't think the board, I mean, the taxpayers in town, it's costing them $25 million to fix the sewer system in town.
Oh, and he's responsible?
And the case that you're arguing is, and we hear that quite often, is the property owner doesn't want to take responsibility and doesn't want to invest into his property, which would really increase your asset. I don't buy that argument. I think it's your responsibility, not the kids that are buying the business.
All right, if we're going to talk about visiting my property, let me explain to you that I have put a lot into my property.
Please.
So if you're saying I'm not interested in improving my property.
Ask you to leave the meeting. I'd just like to hear some opinions from other board members.
Please do.
Mr. Chairman.
Selectman Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, on the issue about the interpreter, when he came down, was there any issue with communication with you, giving him the form and explaining to him how to fill it out? Did he ask for an interpreter down the clerk's office?
He had his son with him.
He had his son with him, so somebody did explain it to him. Okay, so there was never anything that he needed somebody to come here? It was never explained to you that? Okay, that's what I wanted. So somebody did help him fill out the form and explain it to him in what was all done. And for him to understand what you said, he understood when people come up to him and said, oh, everything's fine, you're going to cruise through it. He understood all of that. So this is what if he needed an interpreter, he should have asked for one, and somebody could have been here to basically try to explain everything to him. And the other question that I have is when you first started talking, you said, oh, there's a $50,000 expense to the owner, then it went to $30,000. And we heard that these numbers keep jumping around, but no one has ever gone out to get estimates and actually showed what these grease traps actually cost to put them in.
I'm relying upon what he's told me. I haven't said.
Go ahead, sir.
So my name is Adalberto Jimenez. I'm just talking with my dad. We actually contacted like 2 or 3 plumbing companies to come look at it. Even more, but some come and they say, oh, this is impossible to do, because one of the things is they say you can't put an outside grease trap without it being underneath the ground, because it comes in the winter. Just like any other water pipe, anything else, it's going to freeze.
You have to put it down so far so you don't have to worry about
Yes,
the line freezing.
exactly.
I understand that.
So, and when they said that, the piping in the building, as Joe mentioned too, the piping is all in the front of the building, and you can't put it outside in front of the building. So we contacted, one person said this is a $30,000 job, another company said it's a $50,000 job. Some people said we can't even do it because this is pretty much impossible to do. But the only thing that we just don't understand is the previous owner, he came here on April and he got a waiver. And then 2 months later, we came and we bought it. We came here, we talked to 2 inspectors, and we're like, is there any problem with the building that we have to know before we buy it? And they're like, nope, everything's fine, everything buy it.
But that's not up to them, because they did put on the agenda a grease trap waiver from the plumbing inspector.
Oh, yes.
So there was an issue because the plumbing inspector can't make that decision. They send it to us. And plus, at the last meeting, to get back to the property owner, the board voted that we are now going to send a letter out in license renewal to give everybody time that has not tied into a grease trap, okay, at license renewal, that we're going to have one big giant public hearing in February to discuss everybody that's not tied in. So eventually, every business in town that is producing grease through fryer laters, through any other means, is eventually going to have a grease trap. And the board voted that 5-0 at the last meeting to put a letter together at license renewal time.
Yeah,
So
so
it's either now or it's going to be after November.
No, I understand that, but also on the paper that we received, it said on June 1st that this new regulation was made, right? On June 1st.
Yes.
So we came here on June 15th, and I just don't understand why no one gave us a letter, no one told us about this, and no one even told Joe or the previous owner about that. So we just bought something, we gave all our earnings, me, my mom, my dad quit our job to start a business, and now 3 months later, we're
But
going
when
to
you
lose
go to the
everything.
plumbing inspector and he says, I cannot grant you a grease trap waiver, only the Board of Selectmen can do that, you didn't have a grease trap waiver at the time that you purchased the business.
Yeah,
Because
because
the
the
waiver has to
hearing-
be given before
Yes.
you can purchase the business. So if you were to purchase a business, it should have been contingent on getting all your permits passed by all the
Exactly.
town boards.
But that's why-
usually what we see.
that's why we came here,
Somebody comes
though.
forward and they have a PNS agreement that says, per me passing every board in town that says I can open my business, I will then pay you for your business. That's usually what we see in
Oh,
town.
yeah. I understand that. That's why we came here before and everyone said everything was fine.
Yeah.
So we just don't understand after
Chairman.
why we bought it.
Selectman
everything
Thank you.
happened.
At the last meeting, I suggested that we start looking at alternatives, maybe using some common sense in dealing with all these different grease trap issues that are coming in front of us. I'd like to see the plumbing inspector at our next meeting, and I want to ask him some questions regarding grease traps and alternatives to grease traps, because as they indicated, we did grant a waiver for someone at the last meeting for specific reasons. We can't paint this whole town with a brush and treat everybody the same, because these businesses are not all the same. So I'd like to postpone any of the grease trap hearing until after this board, in a public forum, gets to speak with the plumbing inspector. Because there are alternatives. It's a very expensive proposition. Unlike the discussion we had last month, the plumbing inspector reiterated to me again after our last meeting that it's going to be a minimum of $15,000 for any grease trap that goes in Saugus, a minimum. And some of the ones that have longer distances from the main can cost up to $40,000. Selectman Panetta indicated last month that it was $3,000 to $5,000. That's true. That's to buy the unit. That's not to put it in the ground. After you plumb, after you dig up the road, after you repave, it's $15,000 to $40,000 to install a grease trap properly. There are options available, and I think we need to look at them. And I'd like the plumbing inspector to be at our next meeting.
Okay. Just to follow up on what Selectman Horlick had to say.
Mr. Chairman, okay.
I was going to ask you about his request, just 1 minute. The sewer rules and regulations weren't just put into effect June. The grease trap requirement's been into effect since 1987, and probably 75% of the businesses in town do have external grease traps. So there's a few that we're just trying to catch up on. So I just want you to know that this isn't something new. This has been going on since 1987. Mr. Manager, you want to about bringing in a, I don't know if that's appropriate to bring in a department head before the board.
Well, I
might
guess,
be able to be handled in a different way.
I would suggest that it's the town's policy from the administration here, from down, that all places should have a grease trap. That's always been, it's the regulation that needs to be enforced, and that's recommended by the plumbing inspector. Yep. I would suggest what Selectman Castanetti's looking for, I would suggest that if you have a meeting or, want to have a public hearing where the individuals or the businesses that have issues want to bring alternatives and have suggestions, I think that's fine. I don't think it's, the Board of Selectmen have the authority to waive anything you want to waive, so you can vote that tonight, you can vote it any night. That's up to the board. As far as the town's policy, because of the money, the ACO that we're under, we've already spent, I think, close to $27 million, and we'll continue to spend. It's the policy of the town from my office down, and it's always been, prior to me getting here, is that all businesses need an external grease trap, and it's up to them to figure out how to do that, not for the town to figure out how to, do something that's less conservative to protect the sewer system. So I would suggest it's not the town's position or the plumbing inspector, it's these contractors that need to bring in the bids. It shouldn't be the plumbing inspector that's put in the middle of something that you guys have authority to do to make a decision. If you want to waive it, that's your authority. It has nothing to do with the policy and the regulation that the town is obligated to enforce. And that's granted with you guys, and that's your authority and power. Again, it's up to the contractors to come in with prices and quotes, not the plumbing inspector. His job isn't to try to solve the problem financially or otherwise. It's his job to recommend and enforce the regulations. That's my suggestion.
And the regulations have been there since 1987. They need an external grease trap, and that's what we've been trying to do.
And when the issue comes up, there's waivers that have been voted, and that's completely the authority of the Board of Selectmen.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Selectman Cassidy.
I'm not trying to put the plumbing inspector in the middle of anything. He is the authority for plumbing in our town, as far as I understand. Is that correct?
And his job is to enforce the regulations, and the regulations say they need an exterior
But
grease
he
trap.
also has knowledge that you don't have and I don't have. And I think it's incumbent on us to make the decision that's appropriate based on the current knowledge. We don't have that. He does.
Well, I don't think he does have the current knowledge.
Then why is he a plumbing inspector?
Because his job is to enforce the regulations, not to solve problems for private contractors or
I'm not
private
asking him to
companies.
solve problems.
Well,
He
I guess
has-
it makes me...
Hold on a second, I'm not done. He has plumbing knowledge that you and I don't have and nobody on this board has. And I don't see why you don't want him to come in front of our board so that we can ask him questions. And I just don't get it. We bring the police department in when we have police questions. We bring the fire department in for fire questions. Why can't the plumbing inspector come to a meeting and answer questions for us?
because his job is to enforce the regulations. And
So
what
are
you
we
want, and what
protecting him
you,
for something?
and what you want him to do,
Set
okay, because I've had
policy.
conversations, is you want him to set policy and to help you make a decision to vote on a waiver, and I object to that.
Well, I'm sorry you object to that, but we're the Board of Selectmen, you're not. And if I want him to help me with information that I don't have, there's no reason why he can't come to this board and give us that information. Unless there's something that you want to tell me that is going on that I'm not aware of.
Well, what is going on, if you want to discuss it in public, is that you've been approaching him and asking him to solve a problem for these companies.
I see.
And
So
that's
I
what
don't
I
have
have
that
an issue.
authority to
You
talk
don't.
to another department. Oh, is that right?
Not to influence the policy and to stop him from enforcing regulations, you do not have that
Now,
authority.
now, you need to back off on that, because if people are going to get offended tonight, I'll get offended. I'm not asking him to back off on anything. I want to know what's available for alternatives
Then
to
ask the
external grease trap.
contractors. His job is
I
to
have a
enforce the
plumbing inspector that
regulations.
works for this town.
Yep, and
He's
his
the one
job
I
is
go
to
when I
enforce
have
the
a question.
regulations. I've been at 3 meetings here, Mr. Chairman, 3 or 4 meetings, and all I hear is, the plumbing inspector told me this, the plumbing inspector, I have Board of Selectmen members arguing over with the plumbing inspector. Talk to the contractors, talk to these people that own the businesses, let them bring the solutions. His job is to enforce the regulations. That's the policy from me to him, and that's what his job is. It's not to solve these problems.
I think the board does have an option. It's either to grant them a waiver and let them
Grant the waiver.
install an internal trap, or require them to do an outside trap. And
See, I'm not looking.
Mr. Chairman,
You know,
I-
unlike the article that was in the Saugus Advertiser last week, I'm not here to champion the grease trap waivers. What I'm here to do is treat people fairly based on the needs or the requirements of the business and the town. I understand we spent a lot of money, and I'm not for 1 second suggesting that we blow that $27 million out of the tub. But why should we request or require a $40,000 expenditure from a business that doesn't need it? But I don't know that, and neither do you, any of you. The plumbing inspector is the authority on that. Anybody can interpret or enforce a regulation. Yep, it says you have to have one. Why do you need a plumber to do that? I could read it the same way he does. But why can't he give us options?
And you know why, in all honesty, you know what the issue is that it's his job to enforce the regulations. If you want suggestions on ways to do different things differently, you have them bring it, because what you're creating and what you're putting the town and the plumbing inspector in a position, and myself, is a position that when he comes here and you ask certain questions and you interpret what he's making suggestions of, and then 3 months from now, there's a household that's 3-4 doors down from them that gets backed up with sewerage, you'll be the first people, everybody will say, well, the plumbing inspector said that we could do this, and the plumbing inspector said it would be okay, and that's the way I thought, I understood him. I don't think the town or the plumbing inspector should be in that position. The position, if you want to grant the waiver, you don't have to have them spend $40,000. You can vote tonight and say, I've been on the board, I've voted waivers.
Sure you
can
can,
do
but
that.
that's
I just
contrary
don't,
to
and I'm
good
just
common
saying,
sense.
in all due respect, I don't feel that the board should be putting the plumbing inspector or myself or the town in the regulation in a position that when something happens later, it's going to be, well, the plumbing inspector said this, you know what I mean? And that's the situation and the thing. If you want suggestions, I'm sure that this gentleman has plenty of options. You could have every company, every business that has this issue, bring options and say, well, we could put an internal, we could do this, there's not enough land. We've granted waivers. I've been on the board and granted waivers. But I don't feel it's fair to put, and it's not an appropriate position to put myself, the town, or the plumbing inspector into influencing a decision or policy to that extent. And I think if that doesn't make sense, that's the position,
Manager,
because
you're
the
an
resident's
attorney.
going to blame the town.
You're an attorney. Do you ever call expert witnesses if you go to court? Okay, that's all I'm asking. Why can't we have an expert witness here?
Let them bring their expert witness, not the town.
And is this board going to trust the person that they hire to tell us what we want to hear?
Well, you're the judge.
I would rather have somebody that works for us tell us what the options are.
And you've already had that discussion.
He gave us the recommendation.
So you want to put them on TV and put the town in a position so when the neighbor down the street has an issue with their backup, they're going to say the town's responsible for it now because the plumbing inspector testified in front of the judges that have the decision to make a waiver and influence their decision. His job's to do the regulations. I mean, you've
Mr.
had
Chairman.
conversations with him, I know you have, because he's talked to me
I
about it.
most certainly have, and
And
I
you
haven't
got-
hidden
So what
that from
information do
anybody.
you need here that you don't already have from him? make your
have
decision.
information. I want the board to hear the same thing that I've heard.
A couple of the board members have had the same conversations with him. And that's
I
the
don't know
point
that.
I'm making.
I think we need to wrap this.
Mr. Chairman, briefly, I got,
Quickly, Steve, few minutes and.
I got just two
No,
things.
that's it.
Okay, Mr. Manager, Steve, I respect what you're saying, but it's like the fire department goes into a building and says, you need a sprinkler system. And then they go out and get a quote. The fire department doesn't tell them how much that sprinkler system should cost and where to get it from. Building inspector doesn't tell somebody, this is what you need to do, and this should be the cost your contractor should charge you. They can bring somebody here and bring a quote. All we hear is numbers. Nobody's brought a quote in writing that shows plans that exactly this is what it's going to cost. They can hire somebody and then get a quote. I wouldn't expect the fire department to start telling people how much it costs to do fire protection in their business, or the building inspector telling somebody, well, you should only pay $150 a window, and this is what it should cost you to replace your windows. It's up to him
Saying
to
that.
enforce the code and give the permit, and the same thing with the plumbing inspector. He enforces the code, and he gives a permit, and everybody else gets a contractor, and they get estimates. You get one estimate, two estimates, or three estimates, and then that's what you look at. And what I said last time, too, is that we can start looking at larger internal grease traps. Subway produces no grease on their own, everything is in plastic bags, and they have a 150-gallon internal grease trap. And I said last time that we can start looking at alternatives. You can put 150 or 200 or even a 300-gallon internal grease trap, which may be sufficient if you can't put one in the parking lot. But somebody needs to come before us and say, it is physically impossible to drill and dig down through 6 feet of ledge, to put an external grease trap in a parking lot and go down so the pipes won't freeze. This is going to be the cost. It's cost prohibitive unless you want to spend this amount of money. We haven't seen that. If somebody brings that before us and says it's going to cost $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, then the board can look at a hardship and say, well, we can then look at, an internal grease trap, 200 gallons, 300 gallons internally, which would solve the problem. But nobody's come to show us that
That's not
it's
the
cost
issue.
prohibitive.
The issue is, the paper says you need an external, that's the end of the discussion. There's options out there. There's other options available.
brought that up
for
downstairs in the
situations like
conference room.
this. And I think those are the options we need to understand. And if the town doesn't want to give us those options, then maybe we need to get them from someone
It's not up to
someone
the
else.
town, it's up to the applicant.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir, I
just to
actually
add
have
to what I
the
You know what,
plumbing
I'm
inspector.
going to stop this right now. That's it. Your hearing's all over, I'm sorry, but that's your option. You're going to have to apply for another application, I'm sorry.
If I could just ask.
No, that's it.
One thing
This
about
is it.
timing.
We have a lot of business to do tonight, sir. Please, if not, I'm going to have to remove you from the hall. We got a lot of things left to do.
Every meeting.
That's a first.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is McDonald's, 127 Broadway. Is there anybody here from McDonald's? Hi, you want to come on up, please?
Hello, Board.
Hey,
My
how
name
are
is
ya?
Lindsay Wallen. I'm the owner of the McDonald's at 127 Broadway.
Hi, Lindsay, how are you?
Hi. I sent the letter to you guys. I just wanted a really quick, very brief opportunity just to explain. I know there's been a lot of bad taste in your mouth over the past couple months regarding our violations of our hours of operation license. I just wanted to explain myself a little bit, which I think I did in the letter to you, but just to sort of clear the air. When I took over the restaurant 5 years ago, I was operating under those hours from the beginning, from the previous owner, and really didn't realize that I was breaking any rules until it was brought to my attention earlier this year. At which point I told my manager and everybody, cease immediately, we're going to the hours that are on my license, which we did right away. And then there was some times in the morning when customers would be lined up, banging on the windows, and my employees trying to just make people happy, and started to open earlier, and I didn't realize that was happening. So I wanted to apologize. I didn't realize it was happening. I now check my hours to make sure that no sales go in before our scheduled opening times. I try to be a good neighbor, try to be a good member of the community. We do a lot of fundraising. We, try to be involved with a lot of stuff with the town. We do a lot of free activities. I just put up a fence yesterday, actually, to try to give a little more privacy to the neighbors that have lodged the complaints. I haven't spoken to them yet. I was actually going to drive by after this, but it's a little late now because I wanted to see what kind of blockage they're getting now with the new fence. But I don't want to take up anybody's time. If you guys have any questions for me, you can certainly ask, but I just wanted to clear the air.
I appreciate you coming in here, Lindsay. Any questions from board members? No? Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Sorry for the wait.
No problem, thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good night. Okay, next on the correspondence is the Blessed Sacrament Parish. They're requesting a beer and wine license for a fundraiser on October 26th between the hours of 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. And this is something they do every year. So do I have a motion to, and the query came back from Mrs. Sierra, okay.
So moved, Mr.
So
Chairman.
Selectman Castaneda makes a motion to approve this request, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Next is Sully Seas. I see Mr. Gregson here. Hi, George. Want to come on up? Let the board know what you're doing. I'm sorry for the wait.
Gentlemen, George Gregson, I'm at 325 Central Street. I'm here for Sully C's property, and we're asking for 2 separate day waivers. One is for Saugus High School, the class of '89. They want to have a reunion at the site, on the site being on Broadway, and the other one they want to have a Halloween party. And you have the request with the 2 days in there. We're changing, they're not trying to get around you, but we're going to be coming back when this trial business is over, so we can have all of the different licenses we were talking about the last time we were in. And you said, give it a chance. There hasn't been one complaint, hasn't been one incident up there that we've heard of or there have been reports to the town on us. Nothing's happening adverse. Everything's going fine. We have the managers you want. We have everything. Everything's going good. And we just want to have a DJ, and they have the reunion, the class of '89, Saugus High School class too. And we're requesting that you give us these 2 waivers.
Okay. Any questions by board members? So the waivers is for DJ and dancing on those 2 dates?
Yes.
George? Thank you. No questions from board members? Then do I have a motion to approve the request for the 2 days for a DJ and a dancing? Selectman Castaneda makes that as a motion, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Good luck.
It's a good chance for us to follow a tough one. You want to get us out of here.
They're all tough, George. It's getting worse and worse.
It's nice to see you back, George, too.
Okay. Next, we have the Police Department, Traffic Improvements. Sergeant, how are you?
Good evening, members of the board. This was correspondence that I had sent to you to make you aware. I had attended a community meeting at Laurel Towers with several of the residents of Rice Street on August 22nd. They had asked me to come to the meeting because they had concerns about the intersection of Mar Road and Denver Street. We worked together and we came up with some suggestions and some concerns they had in the area. And the reason why this was sent to you was initially we had some questions on parking on Mar Road, and I believe that there may be some changes we would have to make to the traffic rules and regulations. I spoke with Wendy and I've done some research, and it turns out the concerns we had about parking on that section of Mar Road, it's already been solved. There is no parking. It was an issue with the signage. But I wanted to send the packet to you to make you aware of some of the things we're going to do. I've talked to the DPW director actually today. We're going to work together. We're going to add some signs on Denver Street to notify traffic of the dangerous curve and that intersection. We're going to re-sign the area and make sure that it's strictly enforced for no parking. And I brought this information back to the residents. They had a meeting this past week, and we've made them aware of the changes that we're going to do. So hopefully we'll see some improvement in that area. That's basically why this came to you. We wanted to make you aware of it.
Yeah, thank you, Sergeant. I remember a few years ago, myself and Selectman Horlick were on the board at the time, that they put no parking on my road several years ago, but all the signs are missing.
Yeah, one side of the road has the signs completely missing,
Wow.
and the residents, or people in the area have taken full advantage of it. And I know there was a question of enforcement because my road is a split street. One side comes out on Vine, the other comes out on Denver. The section on Denver Street is the no parking. And then there's a little cut through at the end of my road that goes into Rice Street that we don't have jurisdiction over. It's actually the parking authority. So I know everyone kind of is a little hesitant when it comes to enforcing that area because of that little cut through road. But I think after looking at the area, doing several site visits, getting some maps, we're pretty clear on what authority we have, what we need for signs. Like I said, I've been in contact with the DPW director. We're going to go down and figure out what we have to do. So hopefully this will make improvements, slow down traffic in the area. The residents seem pretty happy that this is going forward, so.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you for your
Sergeant.
support.
Any
Mr.
questions by
Chairman,
board
I
members?
got one question.
Selectman
I'm
Horlick?
sorry, Steve. Oh, I thought you wanted to ask a
Oh,
question.
Selectman Mitchell then. No, let's.
okay, go ahead,
Selectman
Julie, go
Mitchell
ahead.
go first.
When you're going around the corner, there's a lot of brush. Do you know if that was cut back?
That's one of the suggestions that we have. On the inside corner of the turn, we're going to cut that back. Of course, with the fall coming and the foliage disappearing, it's not going to be as much of an issue, but we're going to make sure that's going to be maintained come next spring. We're going to re-sign the curve with bright reflective arrows, and one side on Denver Street actually is missing a dangerous curve sign as you approach the intersection, and the other is completely faded. It's not even reflective. So that stuff's going to help warn traffic to slow down when it comes to the intersection. And then we're going to work on my road to limit the vehicles, or to eliminate the vehicles parking and make sure that it's a thin road, but make sure that they have full access.
Yeah, because even if there was a little stop sign, because so many times I was going, I couldn't see the cars coming around the corner.
Yeah, there is a stop sign on, if you're coming off of my road onto Denver Street, there is a stop sign. So I know one of the suggestions with the residents were they wanted to actually put a stop sign on Denver Street,
Yeah.
which the police department's actually against that because Denver Street has a right-of-way on that, even though it is a sharp corner. We strongly believe that as long as we really advertise that corner with the nice, fresh, reflective signs coming into it, that it should help slow down traffic. And it's not a extremely well-traveled access road, my road, but there is enough cars that come down with it. It is a concern. So,
Yeah.
but my suggestion was that we implement these changes, and then we'll just monitor and see if it makes a difference. And if it doesn't, then maybe we do have to go forward and look at stopping Denver Street. But initially, right now, I think we need to make these subtle changes and see what happens before we do anything drastic. So, and the residents seem pretty. I think they were more excited just the fact that there was someone to listen and that we worked together to come up with a list of suggestions to change. So we appreciate your support, the board's support in making these changes. So.
Thank you.
Is that it, Julie?
Yes.
Selectman Horlick?
Thank you. Also to Sergeant, when you go down the end of Denver Street and you take the right to go to Talbot, I know every year I call up to get that brush cut, because as you're trying to get into Rice Street, you almost have to go out 8 to 10 feet to see the traffic coming up, because you have all the brush there. And Jimmy Ward this year has done an excellent job as last year with the former director. They always try to keep that down, because I get a lot of calls on that people just come down Denver Street to take the left, and they're just flying around that corner.
Yeah.
And people are trying to get into Rice Street, and you basically can't see them until he started cutting that down. So,
Right.
so you know, and then on my road, I've talked to some of the residents up there also too, and that was their concern, is that they just, they want to talk to somebody and they want to try to get some solutions. So I want to thank you for all the time you put into everything you do before the board. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Sergeant. Okay. Last on the agenda, we did receive a letter from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts regarding the starting the process with Comcast's renewal. And we'll send this off to the Cable Television Commission. I believe Mrs. Jaros and Mr. Ravagno are on that, so when we send that over to him, I appreciate it. Okay. Next, we do have some continued hearings. First is the Tumblein Restaurant. It's the applicant here. And, the board did receive a couple of recommendations, I believe, from the plumbing inspector, informing the board that the external grease trap can be installed at the Tumblein to the rear of the building, and the drainage would connect onto Lincoln Ave. And it's highly recommended that one be installed because of the sit-down china plates, utensils, metal silverware, commercial dishwasher, floor drains, and just the grease itself. So, and we also received a recommendation from the Board of Health to requiring an exterior grease trap per rules and regulations on our sewer rules and regulations that were established in 1987. Okay, hi, how are you?
Hello.
Okay. So I believe that was the board was just waiting to hear back from the recommendations from the Board of Health and Plumbing Inspector. I believe we did transfer the common victuals license at our last meeting, and now we're here just for the waiver of the grease trap. Those are the recommendations from the Plumbing and Board of Health. I don't know what else to tell you. But they're recommending an external grease trap.
And Mr. Chairman?
Selectman Panetta?
They're also saying that your internal grease trap is grossly undersized, so there's some concern with your internal grease trap as well, which we didn't know about.
I did not know about that either until I seen his report. Go ahead.
It says it's missing key components for it to properly function.
If I may address the board, my name is Richard Sirocco.
Hi, how are you?
I'm speaking on behalf of the Tumblein issue. The plumbing report we originally received from a private plumbing company is how Ms. Kuna based her opinion of the internal grease trap being of proper size, of proper operation. And after, obviously, the plumbing inspector made that determination, found it contradictory. I did a little bit of research, and according to Title V, which I just punched up on the computer today, and Councilor Castagnetti, you might want to take a peek at that. It's actually very interesting reading. I didn't get to read the entire product, but some parts I did pull out. According to Section 15006, less than 10,000 gallons per day is not a requirement consistent with the 1978 code. So in reading that one line, it indicates that a waiver, obviously in past practice, has been what's been happening legitimately to accommodate certain restaurants with a lower production for expenditure of grease, oil into the general system. And I think that's something that maybe the board might want to consider in a waiver issue of this type. The Tumblein has been in operation for, as far as I know, from just conversation, around 70-ish years, and has operated in past years with a grease trap installed. And as far as the current code, of course, the plumbing inspector, I'm sure, would be well-versed in. It may need a little bit of update, but I don't believe that it needs an external grease trap, given the current situation. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from board members? I believe the last time that a transfer took place, if the plumbing inspector, and this happens on a lot, even on Essex Street, which we discussed earlier, the plumbing inspector doesn't make any recommendations, and the board has no knowledge that an external, that we just figure, at least I do, that one's already there, so this is what happens in a lot of these circumstances.
Well, in doing the brief research that I have done in reading that title, it did indicate that on certain situations, an external grease trap is required. It gives specific requirements. It gives specific data as to how to install, what depth, to what specifications according to code. And it also gives, in the general research, it also gives options. Options in the form of powder form, liquid form, which dissolves, eats away at grease, certain chemicals that may enter the system. That's more under the septic system situation, just so you're aware. But they're called grease removal treatments. That might be something the board might want to take into a little consideration also.
Okay. Selectman Panetta.
At this time, reading what we have in front of us from the Board of Health, as well as what we have from our plumbing inspector, and both of them saying that you need an external grease trap, and there's other significant concerns in their write-up, at this evening, am not going to grant you an external grease trap waiver. We talked about this, I believe, the last time you were here, and you've heard the same conversation, so I'm not going to reiterate the whole thing. But, you know, the taxpayers have spent $27 million cleaning up our sewer system. We're under a consent order. You know, it's the cost of doing business. I mean, I think that you should be working with the property owner and coming up with a good solution on how to move forward. And you probably know we're a participant in the Lynn wastewater treatment plant. And we have an agreement, and with that agreement, we have made a commitment to have grease traps installed on all food establishments. So I'm not saying that we can't look at this moving forward, but this evening, I will be voting no.
Okay, any other comments by board members? Okay, what is the wish of the board? Do I have a motion then?
Can I just say a few words? My name is Manny Rabbit. I'm the attorney for the current owner of Cumberland Diner. S&R LLC, Stephen Rzuski is the S in that anyway. And we've been, I think tonight it's the wrong night to be talking about grease traps, and with a last name like Rabbit, I think I may want to hop out of here pretty soon. But anyway, the point being that it is a Herculean cost. And I understand that cost may not be something to be terribly considered, but the point being that Saugus is not unused of ledge, if you will. The city is built on it, if you will. And Steve has the same problem. The grease trap would have to be in the back of the building, so many feet down to prevent freeze. Probably have to either blast or chemically get rid of the ledge, and the sewer line has to tie into the front. He is another sidewalk, coffee shop, diner, if you will, so there's no way it can be buried in the front on the sidewalk. And what we're trying to do is to see if there's another way we can solve this problem, whether it's a postponement to allow us to study it a little bit more. We don't have an estimate. As one of the selectmen said, do we have a number? We do not. We have a range, but we do not have a number. The reason being is we didn't have anybody core the back to determine the ledge, the depth of the ledge. Obviously, that would affect the price in order to put the external grease trap in. And what we're asking from the board is to see if we could put this decision off for a while. These are the potential new buyers of the diner. We have an executed purchase and sale agreement. Obviously, something like this would hinder that action and may even hinder the going forward of the diner itself. Because there is no way a small business like this makes the kind of money that one can afford $15,000 to $40,000. It just doesn't happen. And small businesses like this, as much as you see on TV, banks that are saying we're willing to loan, they're not willing to loan. Where's the collateral? You know, there's no collateral in this business because there is no real estate. The only assets of the business are the sink, the internal grease trap, the refrigerators, et cetera. And we all know what used refrigerators are worth, if you will. So the only assets that can be based as collateral are your personal assets, and that's a decision we all would have to make, or they would have to make. So in summary, I don't want to take more time because we've kicked this around, but I was hoping we could, and if we can't get a waiver, I was hoping we could at least postpone the decision until we maybe have more time to come up with estimates and whatever, and we could go forward with the purchase and sale agreement. I respectfully submit that to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I told the earlier applicant, I mean, it's really not the new owners taking over the business. It's up to the property owner. If he wants to make that investment in this property, which will increase his property value, I mean, that's really his decision. But my top priority is protecting the residents of the community that invested $25 million into rehabbing the sewer system in town. So I'm sorry, but anybody else want to make a comment? Okay, do I have a motion then?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. The motion is to deny the external grease trap waiver to the Tumble-In.
Okay, and that is seconded by the chair. All those in favor? Selectman Castanetti?
From the previous
Oh, wait, I have to, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I had to make a motion to close the public hearing before I made the motion.
Okay, a motion to close the public hearing, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Ayes have it 5-0. Okay, Selectman Panetta's motion, Selectman to deny the waiver. Selectman Castanetti's.
From the previous
Speak on the
discussion,
motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to abstain from this motion because I don't think we have adequate knowledge whether to grant or deny this waiver based on other options that may be available to the business owner.
Okay. Selectman Castanetti is abstaining from the vote. That is seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain, 1. 4 ayes and 1 abstention, Wendy. Okay. Hey, maybe you can work something out with the property owner. That'd probably be your best bet. I know they have in several other establishments. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for your respectfulness. Okay. Okay, next, the Elks Club. I think the Elks was asking for continuance, Wendy. They never notified the abutters. So do I have a motion to continue the Elks hearing?
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Selectman Castanet makes a motion to continue the Elks hearing to our next meeting, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, ayes have it 5-0. Is there anybody here from Metz Cab? Metz Cab, hi, how are you? Please give your name and address to our clerk. And
My name is Soren. I'm from Newton. Address is 133 North Street, Newtonville, Mass. 02460.
Okay, did you get that, Wendy? Okay, thank you. You're looking for, presently have 1 cab operating in town, you're looking for 2 more.
Yep.
Okay, and the police department, I don't know if they sent a recommendation in. Sergeant, do you have anything to say on the application? No objections from inspectional services, which there wouldn't be any. None from the fire department. The police department has no objections, is that correct? Okay. So there are no objections from inspectional services or the police department. This is a public, board members have any questions? If not, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor or opposes this application? Okay, if not, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Oh, Selectman
Can I ask a
Panetta.
couple of questions?
Sure.
So you have 1 cab now, you want 2 more. Where were you located? Where were your cabs located?
We located in Saugus.
You are located in Saugus, and where in Saugus?
What's that?
Where? Where are they located?
We don't have an office in Saugus. They don't require us to have an office in here.
Okay, I must not have asked the question correctly. Your cab right now, where do you park your car?
We park it at in Medford.
In Medford?
Yeah, we don't park it in Saugus.
Okay.
Sometimes we park it at my house too.
Okay, and so these other two cars, these other two cabs that you're going to work in
It's-
Saugus as well, are those going to also be located in Medford?
Yeah, Medford and also maybe in Quincy because of my partner. He live in Quincy,
So are they registered out of Medford or registered out of Saugus?
registered in Saugus.
Okay.
But we have a space to park.
Just wanted to make sure they were registered as Saugus
Yep.
cabs. Okay. Then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, Selectman Panetta makes a motion to close the public hearing, seconded by the chair. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we make a motion to accept the two cabs? Or just to close the public hearing?
Oh, did we vote? I'm sorry.
I think we just, I think we closed the.
Did we vote for the request?
No,
Oh,
I'll make the motion to grant the two additional cabs for Mets cabs, as long as they are going to be licensed and registered in Saugus.
Okay, that is seconded by the chair. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Okay. We have the 8 o'clock public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Saugus Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on amending the town's traffic rules and regulations, Article 5, Section 13, by designating handicap parking only at the following locations: in front of 295 Central Street and in front of 38 Wendell Street. This hearing will be held in the Saugus Town Hall Auditorium, 298 Central Street, on September 24th, 2013, at 8 o'clock. Sergeant, do you want to take one up at a time?
All right, we'll start with the 38 Wendell Street. This was a request by the resident there. I'm not going to go into detail about the reason. There's a legitimate need for the handicap space, and there was also a concern with this location because of it's so close to the nursing home that sometimes a lot of the staff end up parking, because there's a couple of those streets are one-way streets, so they'll end up parking, blocking her, the area in front of her house. Did a site survey. I believe there's a legitimate need for it, and this police department supports it. There's a completely reasonable to add that handicap spot in front of her house. With the one exception of during winter months with snow removal, that the vehicle is not, it does not hinder any type of snow removal. And she does have a place to put the vehicle in her driveway during those times.
Okay, any questions, Selectman Castanetti?
Sergeant Van Steensberg, I guess my concern reading this, she's located right across from a nursing home.
Yes.
A handicap sign isn't going to prevent people that are handicapped that visit the nursing home or are in the nursing home that still drive or whatever from parking in that spot, right?
That's correct.
Is there any way that a spot can be designated like a handicap resident?
No, I don't believe so. Now, the only, I guess my response would be, it's by the nursing home. However, it's not by the front doors to the nursing home. So it really wouldn't be a benefit of anyone that really needed a handicap spot. Her house is down the end, it's down the end of one of the opposite exits of one of the parking lots. So it's really not convenient for someone that needs a handicap spot to park by the front of the building and get into it. It just wouldn't make sense for it. But to designate it for her own personal spot, I don't believe there's any way to legally
I guess
do
we
that.
can play it by ear and see what happens, and if there's a problem, we can deal with it later.
Mr. Chairman, just as a
Selectman
follow-up.
Panetta?
It sounded, did she have a driveway that she can park her car?
She does.
So really, as I read through the literature, it sounded like people were parking, so she had a difficult time maneuvering her car in and out of her driveway and getting her mail, because the mailbox, it was more of a convenience type of situation. Is that correct?
Convenience and access in the front of her home. It sounds like, from reading it, it sounds like it's a lot easier for her to park out front and make it into the front of her house throughout the day. But if need be, like for those times of snow removal, there is a place, a secondary place to put that vehicle to get it out of the way.
So even if there was a car that was parked there, at least she still has her driveway that she could go in and out of?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor or opposed to this application? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing on 38 Wendell Street, seconded by the chair. All those in favor? Aye.
I'll make
Opposed?
the motion, Mr.
Abstain?
Chairman.
Ayes have
Sorry.
it 5-0. Go ahead, Steve.
Trying to speed it up a little bit. I'll make a motion to grant the request by designating handicap parking only in front of number 38 Wendell Street.
Okay, another seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Ayes have it 5-0. 295 Central Street, Sergeant.
295 Central Street, that's actually right in front of, that's the library. And this was brought to our attention from a resident. I did a site survey. Currently, there are no handicap spots available in the front of the library. There are 2 spots to the rear. A couple issues with those spots. One is they certainly need to be tended to. The signs need to be updated. The markings on the ground need to be have some fresh paint so they stand out. The other thing when I was looking around is you have 2 handicap spots behind the library, but there's really there's no convenient access into the library. They're still going to have to park out back and make their way out to either the side or the front of the building to get it. So once again, I believe it would be appropriate to have a space right out front in one of those angled parking spots. The suggestion would be the spot closest to the rotary, and there's a telephone pole right there. So if we're able to, we could mount a handicap sign right to that telephone pole. If not, you had to mount a sign to the sidewalk. It's not going to obstruct anything. You can put it right up next to the telephone pole. And that's going to be for access to, it will be a handicap spot for anyone who's going to access the library. There's the Charlie's Pizza just went there, so they'll be able to utilize that. And also, if they're right across from the town hall, so I believe it's appropriate location. We support adding that to the traffic.
Selectman Cassidy.
So is there a ramp there so they can get up onto the sidewalk where you can put that spot?
There is to the left where you enter Charlie's Pizza. You can access the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question, Sergeant. If we have 2 spots in the back of the building, which it seems like people aren't using, it's too far away, is it possible to eliminate one of the handicap and just leave one back there to free up a spot, a regular spot? What's your opinion on that?
I would see no problem with that, keeping one on the back. And the benefit of the one out back, what I did notice is they were larger spots, so it could accommodate like a larger van. So I believe that's a good suggestion, leaving one large spot out back, making sure that it's signed properly, fresh paint, and then adding that spot up front. Like I said, that spot closest to the rotary.
Okay. So, any other questions by board members?
So when we make the motion, do we say to eliminate a spot as well, or are they going to just do that?
No, we can have the DPW
Okay,
take care of
and
that.
the DPW is going to, at least with the one in back, is going to put the fresh paint and...
Yep. Okay. We
because
can have
it
the
sounds-
manager do that.
It sounds like they don't know that it's a handicap parking
Right.
space.
If it's approved, I'll work with that.
Great.
DPW, thank
director,
you.
Make sure that all gets taken care of.
Yeah, thank you, Sergeant. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor or oppose this application?
I'll
Okay,
make-
if not, Selectman Panetta.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Selectman Panetta makes a motion to close the public hearing on 295 Central Street, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to designate a handicap parking only space in front of 295 Central Street at the location the officer just presented to us.
And that is seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. Okay. Next, Mr. Manager. Manager's report.
Just a couple follow-ups with regard to the church, Selectman Panetta actually Sergeant Van Steenberg is here. They said they're going to be they're looking into the situation with the traffic issues. They're going to speak with the church, or they have, and they're going to be enforcing the parking and whatnot, and monitoring that more frequently. You had requested last week, the last meeting. Also, Selectman Horlick, you had requested take a look down on Eustace Street. I had the DPW go down and check the catch basins, and the basins seemed to be operating properly, and there was no debris or blockage in the catch basins at this time. They don't feel that there's anything further that's needed at this time. Also, there was a request to have, I think it might have been Selectman Castanetti, regarding crosswalks being painted, the bike path locations. Another coat of paint was put at Adams Ave, Denver Street, School Street, at the railroad tracks on Essex Street, and they're in the process of, I think Selectman Serino brought up regarding the signage, and they're looking at putting more signage up throughout that in some strategic locations. Also, Selectman Panetta, you brought up regarding the barrels, trash in Cliffondale and Saugus Center and the pickups, and I have the department head following up with getting the more barrels out, but they are doing a pickup. They've been reminded that they have a daily pickup that's part of the agreement that we have now, a daily pickup in Saugus Center, Cliffondale, as well as Lobsterman's Landing. So that is taking place, and we're in the process of following up to get some barrels, there was some commitments to donate some barrels so that we can strategically place them and then have some out on the rail trails also. And then also, I think Selectman Castanet had brought up regarding the Elm Street. We did put a request in to set up a meeting, and CDM is looking at, they wanted Virginia Roach. I don't know if you remember her. She was involved in the Shoebrook project. She's a drainage expert, and they want her to be at the meeting. She was on vacation for a couple of weeks, so they were trying to figure out a date for that, so I just wanted to give you an update on that. So as soon as we work something out, we can set that up, but I know that Paul Ross has limited expertise in the drainage.
I know we mentioned October 24th with Virginia. Were we going to try to coordinate Paul Rupp also in the grant? He did the grants on there.
Yes. So I just haven't heard what date she would be available.
Okay.
It's three different people we're trying to coordinate.
Okay, Selectman
That's
Mitchell?
going to be open to the public,
It'll be a public hearing,
and
yeah.
it'll be posted, so everyone will know.
Yeah, try to get it televised.
Yeah.
We'll have it up here, Julie. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Selectman Horlick?
Town manager, through you, when you do the public hearing and she gives us the information, can you give us a overlay from the assessor's office and mark all the houses that flood because of that? Because I like to see the scope of the property damage when that bridge floods out, because that's the main concern, is basically try to make people's property not flood, which would increase the value of their property. Because right now, when that floods out, I mean, there's just so many houses that are impacted. It would be nice to see if we could, have an assessor's map, and you could just color in all the houses that have flooded in the past because of that part of the river that overflows.
I think what I'll do is speak with CDM. They probably, I'm sure, when they did their recommendation in this grant,
We had the Mother's Day storm with a lot of
identified- yeah.
pictures, so we can look at those houses too, probably.
But I'm
put
sure
them
that
on the
they've
map.
identified it on a map, so I'll see what they have, and we'll have something one way or
But
the
it's
other.
nice to see it, and it's nice for the public, if they want a copy of it, to see this is the impact that these people are experiencing. That's why we're here. So, thank you.
Sure. And just some new things that are going on. One of the things, I have a meeting set up this week with all the department heads, and I think I sent it out, all the selectmen were sent out, regarding Governor Patrick's funding of $4 million towards the Community Innovation Challenge Grant, to try to get ideas, and really trying to look at different ways, or whether it's regional or whatnot. I think it appears from some of the lists and the people that have received funding in the past, municipalities, it's based on a lot of regional ideas. So I'm sort of trying to reach out to the surrounding communities for ideas also. But basically, that funding through the CIC grant, and Robert Long is involved and instrumental in organizing that and helping put that together. But it promotes and helps support local governments and regionalization of projects and other initiatives designed to deliver local services more effectively and efficiently throughout Massachusetts. So we're going to try to, probably the first time for Saugus, to try to participate and get a grant submitted on some idea that we feel that it would be of value to the town. So we have a meeting, I think it's on Thursday, to solicit ideas from all the department heads and anybody that has an idea that we can, put together and then formalize that and submit it. It's just another opportunity as far as the town trying to take advantage of that. Also in the process of hiring a couple of police officers. We have some retirements and whatnot that there'll be 2 that need to be replaced. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that with the hiring and the training is 6 months, and then in 2 months when they come out, it's almost a year's worth of time, and we always can use, I think, extra manpower. But when somebody leaves, it's a year process of filling that position or 2. But we are in the process and should be putting them together shortly. Also, I've been in discussions with the PEC group and all the unions regarding health insurance, looking at trying to put a plan together that possibly would save additional monies to the town, as well as having a better plan for the employees. So that we're in the process of that. We've been working on that for a couple of months, a few months, and I just wanted to, keep you abreast of that. Also, today, with Robert Luongo, I don't know if you're aware, just recently the Whalus property had sold. I think it was in the last 2 weeks. And I guess the good news is that the back taxes of about $381,000, we received a check for that when they did sell, which is something that was in the rears, and we were able to receive that, which is good news. But myself and Robert Luongo met with the new owners of that property, and they own a bunch of different parcels, and I think it's approximately about 11 acres total in Saugus with all the parcels, and it's approximately 20, or actually I think it's about 30 acres in Revere, and it includes the caddy farm and whatnot. But they, now with the parcels that they've acquired, they have access to Route 1, which I think, when I was on the board, and we've had those issues on Eustace Street and concerns about that development, but they do have access to Route 1. We just had a preliminary discussion. They sort of want to keep, the communities Revere and Saugus abreast that they are the new owners and that they're just exploring. They have no definitive plans, but they are exploring, trying to explore what to develop there. And I think that anything that the town is part of our initiative of trying to attract new businesses and new development that has the least impact on the community, but is able to generate additional revenues. And I guess if you're a taxpayer at home, you're a resident, you're probably saying, well, what does that mean for me? And part of that is to help increase the tax levy so that we have a stable tax base to continue with as a full-service community. And so it's important, especially with the casinos coming in, and what the impact, whether it's negative or positive there, and the possibility of hotel or mixed use or whatnot. And I think one of the and I just told them that we're open, and that that's would be part of the process and whatnot. But I think that the uniqueness of the property and the parcels where they have them is that there's some natural buffers with cliffs and whatnot that actually, where the residents are, and actually, so I think it provides less of an impact if they do develop it. But, this is just at the beginning stages, and they wanted to introduce themselves, and, obviously it would be something that would be between Revere and, they talked about, as the project on that Paul Rupp has been involved with, because he also consults for City of Revere, of widening that Bennett Highway all the way down to the movie theater and to 99. So, that's a positive thing, and we'll just see what happens. It could be a good opportunity for the town, but obviously you have to balance and go through the process of the impact. Also, just an update on The valve installation on Lincoln Ave at Ballard, that's been being worked on. Also Juniper Drive, there's a domestic water booster station that's been completed, that's been installed. We'll actually end up saving some money on electricity because it's a better unit, and we won't, if you remember that we had issues with that over the years, and it's broken down, and we've had many issues, but there was a new installation put in there, which will help the water pressure and everything in that area. That was done by Sampson and Weston. Also, just an update on the Lincoln Ave sewer station. The good news is that when they investigated and started looking into it, that it was just the piping that delivers the fuel that was damaged, and actually our in-house building maintenance plumber was able to re-plumb all that, and there was no leakage, no issues, just air getting in that shut the unit down. So that's a huge sigh of relief that that's all set, and we have the same tank there, and very minimal expense to get that going rather than a large expense of doing all the different things with the new tank. Also, as you're probably aware, the Lincoln Ave project is going very well. They're moving pretty quickly. If you haven't taken a chance, I mean, there's some traffic there, but if you go down and take a look, they've pulled all the sidewalks on one side, all the way up into Cliftondale and all the way down. It looks like different, it's the same general, the engineer overseeing the project is the same project manager that did the Hamilton Street. So that's, he seems to know Saugus, but one of the things they'll be doing differently is it looks like they'll be forming up and doing the sidewalks before they do the grinding down of the roadway and whatnot. So they'll be moving forward. They took some trees down there that ended up, when you get down and look at them, the trees were all rotted and pretty damaged, but they had to take those down as far as to be able to, and now they're working with the tree committee about putting what type of trees up that won't, the roots and all that won't disturb the sidewalks and whatnot when we have a finished product, but they're looking at trying to finish that, weather permitting, sometime in November. Also, just an update, it's obviously affects a big part of the town is the FEMA flood maps issues, and there is on Monday, September 30th, at the Lynn City Hall from 3 to 8 p.m. There'll be an informational session, so people, especially affected in precincts 3 and 10, and I think some up the Saugus River way are affected by it. So you can get more information then that I think will be beneficial for people that are affected by it, or any family members. Also, if you we did a reverse 911 on the robocalls, and you probably received those. We're actually, there was a little, I guess, a glitch from their system. So you may have not received the call and then ended up receiving a couple of calls the next day. So we are looking into that with Blackboard. That we were notified there's some kind of a glitch. It was, caused some calls not to go out, and then we had to resend it. But we are looking into it and working out the bugs with the new system. So hopefully people aren't too annoyed by some people, I guess, received 2 or 3 calls. And actually that was for the community meeting for the opiate prevention program that's going on tomorrow night. And that's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman,
Selectman Castellan.
were you going to update us on Kasabuski too?
Oh, I'm sorry. But thank you for reminding me. It's
That's
been
all right.
a long night.
I've been sitting here with bated breath waiting to see what's going on.
Geez, yeah, no.
With my papers in here.
So anyways, I hope everybody received the correspondence. There was a correspondence from the Kazabuski's attorneys, and then a response from me. And I actually have that on the agenda because of the charter change, just to get a permission. There's a whole bunch of different properties that people are calling, but we'll get to that. But just an update on the Kazabuskis, that there's been, as probably the board members have been approached at different times about that there's people interested in, taking over the lease and transferring and whatnot. That was going on when I was on the board, and it's been going on. And there's a couple of gentlemen, I think, different parties that are interested, and that's basically all I have for information. I've never had any additional information. I mean, the only thing that I represented to them, which was the same thing that when we were when I was on the board, and I think share the same issues, is that, you know, whoever would take it over would probably like to see the both gentlemen transfer it out rather than one and not the other, and then also anybody that would take over wouldn't have a financial or any other interest in a team or a league that would be playing in there, because then that becomes the inherent conflict of the hours issue that we've been dealing with. But essentially, that's all I have, and then I had received a letter that was sent to the state basically asking for approval, which the state doesn't have any information of any details, and I haven't received anything. So as you can see from the letter, I, you know, sort of took offense to it a little bit, that it was implied that, you know, the town was well-informed and on board, and that there's been all these discussions. As far as I know, that there was 2 different individuals or groups that were interested, and they both claim they have some sort of assigned proposal, but like I said, you know, put a proposal together, and then I don't know how you have 2 agreements with one person, but what I suggested to them when, you know, I talked to them, was to put something together, a proposal, and then we'd have to bring it, and then the Board of Selectmen would have to, you know, vet that and discuss it and then vote on it. So that's basically where I was actually hoping that at some point they would have some sort of proposal, but I'm not sure how they're asking for approval without having, you know, anything that's been submitted to us. And basically, I think after, if your vote for me to continue or to try to engage in some of these conversations, then what I would do is probably send a follow-up letter in more detail of asking what the specifics are, and to give us the information so that I can present it to the board, at least to look at it, because obviously there's more involved, as you know, from the first time. I think, Steve, you were on the board, and going that, you know, you want to vet who it is, and that, you know, we want to make sure that we're adhering to procurement and all that. But essentially, I have no information, I have no details of anything, and you know as much as I do. So that's why I sent the reply letter.
Mr. Chairman, so you don't know who
Selectman
Black
Mitchell.
Ice Management is?
Who?
Black Ice Management?
I know,
On
no
the letter.
idea. I didn't even see that. Was it Black?
Black Ice Management
I
LLC.
believe that's who they're looking to sell it to.
Right.
Oh, okay. Because I think there's 2 different groups and I think I talked to you about who had approached me, because they had talked to you. That's the only people I ever knew,
I had 2 phone calls from 2 separate.
yeah, that said that they had signed agreements or something to move forward
No,
with them, I think, or
One
something.
did.
Yeah.
The other one was just,
Right. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's hard for the state or for us to make any kind of an agreement or approval without having that information. So I think after this evening, if they
but
have
it
a
has to
vote,
come before us, any.
100%, yeah. Because it's a lot more complicated, and, you know, I think even with the sublease, it was somewhat, probably, I would have probably suggested different language in some of I mean, we're dealing with an oil tank. I mean, there's some complications there with the sublease. I mean, everything should be transferred from whatever we're responsible for under the lease to whoever subleases it, not stuff cut out of there that the town's still responsible for. But that's a whole nother issue, and when we get there, we'll get there, and we can figure that out and what's in the best interest for the town. But we're not even close, because there's no proposal that's been submitted, and I have no
That's
details of
updated.
anything. Yes, absolutely. And so, I'm glad you reminded me. So on here, basically, what I was looking for is a vote from the board under the charter to engage in, we have some town land and property that I've had some inquiries about leasing. One is obviously the Kazabuski rink, which I don't know anything at this point, but I would sort of send a letter to inquire more. Also, in reviewing some of the leases and contracts, the 180 Walnut Street, which is the old DAV building, that lease appears to be expired. So that's something that would have to be discussed, for me to discuss, and obviously, any of this stuff is subject to approval of the Board of Selectmen. DPW landfill, also vote on that, because we're moving forward with, if you remember the tangent that we had an exclusive agreement with on the solar, they actually have, they're putting a whole agreement together that would include leasing the land up at the landfill, also putting onto the school buildings, and putting a whole, savings, which part of it would be from the solar savings, and the other part would be the land lease up at the DPW. Also, other town buildings and also cell towers. We've got quite a few inquiries now on some of the cell towers that we have, like at the police station, that want to do additional business, and I've just briefly pulled those leases and, trying to figure out if we can lease to an additional companies that want to put different things on the established cell towers that we have. So basically, I would just be looking for a vote from the board to be able to engage in discussions with, for the town properties, and obviously subject to the, whatever I come up with to bring to the board
Board would
for
have to
approval.
vote. Yep. Okay,
Mr.
do I
Chair,
have a
I'll-
motion?
I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Selectman Panetta makes a motion to approve the authority of the town manager to negotiate property leases, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0.
Thank you, and thanks for the reminder. I almost, the most important thing I almost forgot.
I was sitting here
Yeah.
waiting the whole time.
Before we get to members' comments, we have the minutes that we need to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to
August
approve the minutes of
27th.
August 27th, subject to changes or corrections by the board.
Any corrections or changes to those minutes? If not, seconded by the chair. All those in favor to approve the August 27th minutes, 2013, aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, ayes have it 5-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Selectman Panetta.
I will make a motion to accept the minutes dated September 10th, 2013, barring any changes or corrections.
Okay. Wendy, I just had a couple on page 6. Where it's second paragraph where it begins regarding Mr. Sereno Maresco. I'd just like to say the chair, it said the issue has been going on since, and cross out 1975 and say the last 3 to 4 years. And then on page 7, the top sentence, where it says 72 hours notice for meetings may be an error and should be 48 hours as required by the open meeting law. Can you add that in? And that's all I have. Any other corrections or changes? If not, Selectman Panetta makes a motion to approve the minutes with the changes, seconded by the chair. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, ayes have a 5-0. Now we'll go to Selectman Panetta, members' comment period.
I'm going to just put a little bit more texture on what the town manager said regarding the FEMA outreach meeting for the general public. Again, that's Monday, September 30th, and it's from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It's at the Lynn City Hall, which is located at 3 City Hall Square, and it's in the auditorium. From 3 to 6, or maybe 3 to 7, depending on how many people attend, there's going to be one-on-one sessions with people from FEMA. They're going to have maps, they'll have their computers there, they can locate where your property is, and they will discuss whatever your concerns are on a one-on-one basis. Then either at 6 or 7, depending on what the participants want and how many people attend, FEMA is going to give a 45-minute presentation and discuss the changes in the flood zone. They're going to talk about the appeal process, insurance, and any other concerns that you might have. They're scheduled 15 minutes for questions and answers, but they say that probably will go over. So again, this is on Monday, September 30th, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Next. The staggered election bill, it looks like it's sitting on the governor's desk, so I believe that should be signed in the near future. So I wanted everybody to be kept abreast of that.
We have until October 1st to get it on the ballot.
Yes. I wanted to congratulate everybody who was involved with the Belmonte Open House. We were all there. It was a really wonderful ceremony. The school looks wonderful, all the improvements that they made. That's a great step for our children, our next generation, moving Saugus forward. So again, thank you for everybody that was involved. And also to the people involved with the Special Olympics, Steve Aganis, Bob Davis, and everybody else that was involved. It was a wonderful time. It was a huge crowd. The raffles were great, the participation. I everybody who participated in that sport, I consider a winner, so congratulations to everybody involved. On Saturday, we have the Breakheart Fall Festival from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I talked at our last meeting a little bit about Birds of Prey from SAVE from 12 to 2, which is going to be a wonderful program. But the Fall Festival includes more than just that. They have pumpkin decorations, arts and crafts, cider, donuts, all sorts of different things that are really family-oriented. So if you do have time from 10 to 2 p.m. on Saturday, it might be something that you'd enjoy going, and it's free. And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. I was on the list next for the comment period. I did draft a letter. I told the board members I'd do it at our last meeting, and it's probably best that we send this letter out maybe to all the food establishments during the renewal process, where Wendy has to send them out their applications anyhow, and it just lets them know that, you know, according to our rules adopted by the board in 1987, that, you know, external grease traps are required, and also it just includes our new addition to the rules that we adopted to let them know that, you know, once the property sold, the business is transferred, or an establishment is upgraded or change of menu occurs, they'll have to comply or either put in a waiver. I don't know if the board wants me to send this letter out or not.
Mr. Chairman?
Selectman Panetta?
I think that your letter is just really a heads up to these other restaurants, letting them know that if the business is to be sold, that this is something that they need to consider. So I don't see this as being an issue, just letting them know that this is a concern of the Board of Selectmen.
Just a notice. Any other comments from board members? I just have to maybe make one small change in the third paragraph regarding the 80%. We might not be just about that high, pretty close, but I want to double check and make sure before I send it out. It's probably not even needed in the letter, but okay. Do I have a motion to send this out then, to during the renewal process, have Wendy put them in?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Selectman Panetta makes a motion that we inform the food establishments during the renewal process. We include this letter in their application package. Seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Ayes have it 5-0. Finally, I just want to let the board members know, and anybody in the public that's interested, that the Ralph Scamone, he's the executive director of the ABCC. Regarding the liquor laws, he's going to have an outreach seminar at the Public Safety Building, and he wants to send a big thank you to Chief DeMella for offering the training room for this regional training. It'll be October 15th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if board members can make that important meeting, I know a lot work, that'll be fine, or even for the public, or even business establishments in town with liquor licenses, this might be helpful for them. Okay, and I just want to note Special Olympics. Again, it's Special Olympics. I want to thank everybody involved. It was a great day. I know all the board members were out walking around, and whoever took part in putting that together, I want to thank them. And also Founders Day, also Greg Nichols and the Youth and Recreation Department did another good job putting Founders Day together, and I want to thank them for that. And I'd just like, Wendy, could you advertise for the Board of Appeals, one position? I did receive a call from the chairman of the Board of Appeals requesting that position be filled. And that's all I have. Board members have any comments?
I have a few, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman,
Selectman
if you don't mind.
Cassidy?
I'd like to, at the last meeting, I asked Sergeant Van Steensberg about the parking issue on Great Woods Road. Is he still here?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. He hid behind. Would you mind giving me an update on that, Sergeant Van Steensberg?
I spoke to one of the residents at 244 Walnut Street, which is that new house on the corner. I believe that's where all the vehicles are coming from. Actually, I identified that is where all the vehicles are coming from. I had good discussion with that resident, and I provided him with some copies of parts of the traffic rules and regulations as it applies to parking. And he's assured me that he's going to monitor the situation, and I'm going to keep an eye on it to make sure that they're not causing any problems with the vehicle. So if there's any further issues, specific problems, the police department needs to be called immediately so we can go out and, if there's something that needs to be cited, we could cite that. But my shift is aware of it. I'm aware of it when I'm on the road. We're keeping an extra eye on it. I have a phone number for that resident. He was open to the discussion, so.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, last meeting, I think you mentioned as well as I that there was some fence debris dumped on the rail trail. And I know we have something in our package from Lorna Cerboni, Public Health, or Frank, I guess, that they visited the site, and I guess they've identified where it came from, and that it's supposedly not trash, that the resident was saving the stuff, but it's sitting on town property and not their own. And they were asked to move it, but according to one of the residents today told me that it's still sitting there, so I think we need to keep an eye on it because we can't use that for
Yeah, I went down to take
storing trash.
I went down to take a look at it and then contacted the Frank, the Board of Health, so he said to keep an eye on it.
Okay.
We'll give him another. Wendy, can you send him another memo for an update, please?
Mr. Chairman, just an update on that.
Yeah.
There was some graffiti that I think down there that the building maintenance took care of some graffiti that was in that area. So they did give me an update on that.
And I just wanted to congratulate Captain Newberry for being promoted to deputy chief as well. I didn't get a chance to do it earlier, but I think that's a great job for him, and congratulations. I don't know I think we've probably all been getting these emails regarding the World Wildlife Fund's Earth Hour City Challenge. Have you been getting them? Everybody been getting those? No?
I received one, I remember.
I think I've had 4 or 5 of them from different people in town. It's not long, but I want to read it, and then we can decide what you want to do with it. It says, "Thank you for your efforts to improve our community. As a resident, I'm writing to express my deep concern about the threats that the impacts of climate change pose to our community. That is why I urge you to enroll our community in the World Wildlife Fund's Earth Hour City Challenge, which offers a platform to recognize and reward cities' transition to 100% renewable energy and prepare for climate change. Like other communities in our state, we have the opportunity to go 100% renewable by using community choice aggregation. This policy, established by state law, allows for cities and counties to pool electricity demand and choose affordable, renewable electricity supplies on behalf of its residents and businesses. Not only will the rest of the country know about our sustainability efforts through the Earth Hour City Challenge, we will have a chance to compete for one of 3 $30,000 grants and be crowned an Earth Hour capital. Participating in this initiative can help raise the profile of our existing sustainability efforts and encourage us to do even more to advance renewable energy and prepare for climate change. I sincerely hope you will visit the website, which I have here, and take advantage of this great opportunity." And that's signed from a resident up in Golden Hills. Mr. Manager, have you gotten these? I'm going to leave this with you.
Okay, all right.
If you want to take a look at it, would you mind? I've got like 4 or 5 different ones from different people.
We did receive that in the office. It was forwarded to the Alternative Energy Committee.
It was forwarded to?
I forwarded it to the Alternative Energy Committee Chairman.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wendy.
I'll follow up with them and see.
Okay, thanks. The 4th annual trivia extravaganza, the SBEC fundraiser for Saugus Public Schools, will take place at Kowloon on October 17th. For an evening full of laughs and socializing. If you don't want to compete, if you have that competitive edge, please register a team of 5. And there's a flyer here if anybody's interested. Can we get that distributed? It's already been, it's already there? All right, good, good. Blessed Sacrament Parish is going to be having a community blood drive on Saturday, October 12th. No appointment, or I guess that's, sorry, for an appointment. You can call the 1-800-RED Cross or visit redcrossblood.org. But according to this, they're in short supply, And if you can, if you're eligible to give, we ask that you stop and donate. Just a couple of other brief things. Last Friday night at the library at 7 o'clock, Saugus Veterans Council hosted a POW MIA Remembrance Ceremony, and last Friday was the National POW MIA Remembrance Day nationwide. So I want to thank the members of the board that were there, the members of the town meeting, and anybody else that came out to help us remember those that, again, are all too easily forgotten, our prisoners of war and missing in action. So thank you very much for coming out last Friday night. I'd like to get a bigger crowd next year so we can fill up the auditorium here. We're working on filling up the library, but we've got bigger and better things ahead of us. 2 days ago on Sunday, you've heard me promoting the Veterans Appreciation Day Parade in Lynn, but our parade went off on Sunday after a couple of nights with no sleep, worrying about the weather. We stepped off at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun came out, and it was a gorgeous day. The estimates were that there were about 15,000 people watching the parade along the route. We had over 2,000 marchers in the parade, and I think the parade lasted close to 2 hours. Dennis Gould and I were both on the committee for the last 2 years. Dennis from the General Electric Veterans Council, they did a tremendous job, provided so much support financially and through hard work and labor. It came off great. We had a really, really outstanding parade, and I wish more of us could have seen it because it was well worth the afternoon. So thank you to all those who showed up for that. And Mr. Chairman, I think that's it for me.
Okay, next, Ms. Mitchell.
He said everything.
You could say motion to adjourn, though.
No, I do have I have a couple of things. I just want to say that I did get to attend the Special Olympics, and it's very touching, and they do an amazing job, the Aganis family, and Bob Davis and everyone involved. It's truly an amazing event, and kudos to everyone who worked hard on that. And just to elaborate a little on Selectman Castanetti on the trivia night, the SBEC, they run this is our 4th annual trivia night for all you smarty pants out there. We raise money for the schools. All the money raised will go back to the schools for mini grants. So if you feel that you can do some good trivia, you can come on down, or you can just be a spectator. $5, you can come in, and you get to play little games all night. So it's kind of fun. We have a really good time, and it's at Kowloon. So remember, all the money goes back to the schools. And that's all I have.
Okay, Selectman Horlet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a couple of things here. First, I want to thank everybody that attended the middle school rededication. I want to thank the state for being involved, and I especially want to thank the residents of the town that supported it on the ballot initiative to come up with the money to pay the bill. It's a good turning point. There's a lot of infrastructure that was done that people don't see that's behind the scenes in there, and the school is going to be I think, a good cornerstone for us to get involved and to look at the next school that we're going to do. I want to thank Bob and Carol Davis and Steve Aganis and the family for the Special Olympics. And I also want to thank our Dennis Michella. He comes out every year to ride the motorcycle and bring in the people involved and ride them in on his bike. And I want to thank him. I want to thank everybody that participated, because without the residents showing up, the event wouldn't happen. So I want to thank everybody that came down and took part of that. I also want to thank everybody that showed up for the POW MIA over at the library. It was a good event. It was a little short, I thought it was, but I think last year, it was a little bit longer. Maybe that was just me. I thought last year was a little bit longer.
I think last year was a little shorter.
It was a little shorter last year.
Some stuff this year.
Yeah. Yeah, so
it's not a long ceremony, but it's a very meaningful ceremony.
Yeah, so I want to thank everybody that came out for that. And, Mr. Manager, can you get a hold of personnel? I know we haven't done this in a few years. Last time I think we did this was about 5 years ago. Can you get a copy from personnel of all the town employees that have special employee status? So you can give that to the board so we can get a list of it. Sure. And also, too, while we're talking about the sewer system and grease trap waivers, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if we should get a letter from the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, because I've had conversations with them years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, regarding, the issue with grease And I know that they're adamant that whatever Saugus can do, not to put grease into the system, because it has to eventually go to Lynn Water and Sewer, and then they're the ones that have to deal with it and treat it and then take it out of the system. So I don't know if we could send them a letter just to get their,
Yeah, if you want to draft it up.
okay, I'll draft it up and I'll give it to Wendy then. And the last thing that I have here, Mr. Chairman, and I just have a couple of things here. I've been watching the news over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and there's been a lot of different events going on within this country. And my main concern is that there's all this talk about all of these things in this country that have to be done. We've had major fires out west, major fires in Texas the last 2 years. State of California has been in financial distress for 10 years. City of Detroit is bankrupt. The fishing industry in New England, there's no permanent solution financially to tell these fishermen to actually, oh, we want you to stop fishing, but there's no permanent financial solution for people that depend on the ocean to feed their families. And we continually give billions and billions of dollars in aid to these foreign countries. And I don't know if there's a way that eventually that maybe that Congress and the U.S. senators and the U.S. reps can actually look at this and say, I don't mind humanitarian aid to give it out, but so many times we hear that aid is given to foreign countries, and the people running those countries spend it on the military. Doesn't go to where it belongs. It's spent on the military, and that they still have the issue with the people that still have needs for medical and also too for food. So it would be nice if the United States Congress and the House of Reps and the U.S. Senate would sit down and say, why don't we start cutting back on some of this aid and start fixing some of the problems here? You go down to parts of Louisiana, I have friends that live down there. For the past 4 years, parts of Louisiana still looked like the hurricane just went through it yesterday. There's all of this distress down there and stuff in the last 4 years which was supposed to get fixed, it still isn't fixed. So, and the reason that this brought this about is I was watching a military show 3 days ago, and there was a colonel that served in the U.S. military, and he fought for the country, came home, and he passed away. And the Pentagon sent a letter saying, because of budget cuts, we're not going to give you a flyover. So 4 people who had private planes that were in the military got their planes together to give this colonel what he deserves at the end of his life, which was a military flyover. And I thought that was atrocious, that here's a person serves his country, and at the end, sorry, we can send planes over for football games and baseball games, but when you pass away as a colonel who fought for your country, you don't get a flyover. And that's what spurred all this. We just spend so much money abroad, and we just don't take care of the issues we have here. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and that's it. Before we continue, can we have a short recess? Selectman Mitchell makes a motion for a short recess, seconded by the chair. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, ayes have it 5-0. Be right back. The meeting will come back to order. We have Mr. Gould here from the Handicap Commission. The board took up an issue earlier about a handicap parking spot in front of the library. Mr. Gould, you come running in, you wanted to make a comment about that?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on the Handicap Commission anymore, but I was on the original one way back when with Kathy Forbes. I was the secretary for 5 years. But I'm still a community access monitor of the state, so I work out of the Mass Office of Disability, so I still do site surveys on handicap accessibility. When you guys were talking about the library, I didn't know it was on the agenda tonight, or I would have come down then. But when you guys were talking about the library, I did the site survey with the state of Massachusetts, and we had handicapped people in wheelchairs doing that site survey to clear the library. We did the town hall, all the new buildings that we did it with the state. Those 2 parking spaces are absolutely necessary in the back. And the reason why they're in the back is you don't have a proper straight egress over curbs to get into the library. So when we did design the library, the handicap access is actually the side door that comes down that incline from the back parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the best straight shot to have people in wheelchairs not on the street. If you do something on the street like the sergeant, and sergeant, I'm not chastising or anything like that, but if you do, please take this constructively. If you do that on the side street, what happens is the curb's right in front of you. If you're on the right in a van, you'll have to get in a wheelchair and come out on the street and go all the way around to get to that access, which is really not a, as far as I know, I don't think it's a sidewalk access. I think it's a driveway, right? Yeah, it's a driveway. It's not even a sidewalk entrance. So first of all, you're going to be in a safety when you come around the back of your van in a wheelchair. They're not going to see you, number one, because there's going to be a car beside you. If you can even get out of it in a space, because you need at least 2 spaces for a wheelchair. So parking in front is not an option for taking the place at the back. So I'd like you guys to reverse that if you did make a decision. Please don't do that. Keep the spaces in the back. If you want to add some in the front, great. But if you do, you need 2 spaces, and then you need, in between the spaces, you need to cut an egress right over to the curb so they don't have to go back of their car. All right? You can't go around the car with handicap. That's a no-no going in the street. So don't do that, please.
Yeah, we didn't take a vote on that, Dennis.
I thought you did.
No, he just said he'll look into the 2 spots in the back. The only vote we took was for the one up
Okay,
front.
well, when you do, or if you do.
Can you work it
I
out?
would like to work with you, sir.
Yeah,
I'll be glad
that's what I was
to.
gonna say.
Steve knows how to get a hold of me. Manager knows how to get a hold of me. I'll be glad to do a site survey with you, walk through it, tell you all the things we did to make sure we do the right thing for the handicapped people, okay?
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
And one other thing while I'm here, can you please stop the reverse 911 for non-emergency stuff? That was very annoying today. You get 3 calls about a meeting.
We just talked about that.
Yeah, I know you did.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You ought to have a policy. It's used for 911 reverse only, safety stuff, not meetings. Thank you.
It's a long story, but it's actually for those purposes, but the problem is
Well,
they
if
had
it
a
is,
they had a glitch in the system.
How do I get off the list?
You can opt out of it.
Did
Mr.
we vote
Chairman.
on that? No. On the parking space out front, though?
We did vote on the parking space
So I think we
out front.
probably ought to I'll make a motion to reconsider that and bring it up after,
we're gonna-
after they've had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, we're going to let him look at it, and, I mean, if there's a problem, I don't think we have to revote it.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Get up and speak.
We can do it, but we need 2 spaces.
Yeah.
So I guess the
And
suggestion.
a ramp.
The suggestion, I would say, is leave the 2 spaces in the back, but I think we should still add that space up front, because just because you have a handicap placard doesn't mean you're in a wheelchair. So it's still going to have people that need a handicap space up front that can easily walk with a cane or whatever to get up to the space. You can always just add that space up front.
But what's going to happen if somebody pulls in that does have a wheelchair? Then what?
Mr. Chairman, that's been the issue before.
We're going to
This has
force
been
them out
discussed.
into the street to go around the car to get up on that ramp.
But isn't there a sign, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, isn't there a sign that says wheelchair accessible, or, because I've seen handicap spots that are wider and some that are smaller. So I didn't know if there was specific signs saying,
There are out there that say like van accessible and
Right.
stuff like that. So I'd be happy to work with the gentleman, and we can work out something and make sure that, liability-wise, everyone's covered.
So if we change the sign, I mean, if somebody's in crutches, they don't need a giant spot. They could have a smaller spot or a cane or something like that. I'm looking at you, Mr. Gold, if we have a sign that specifically says, not the wheelchair sign, would that be acceptable?
Still have a curb in front of you. You still have a curb to go over, and if you have a walking impairment or even a blind impairment, I have a sight vision problem now down on my left side. I can't see the bottom. You could trip over the curb. You can't get over it. When I had my back problem, you see me here last meeting with 2 crutches. Very hard to get over a curb. You got to have a curb cut for handicapped people, even if they're not in a wheelchair, because sometimes you can't even see the handicap on a person. And, I'm sure some of the officers want to tag some people when they see you park and get out of the car and walk, but they still have a handicap. You shouldn't have a curb in the front of the way they have to walk in for a handicap spot, regardless whether it's for a van or just anybody. That's why we want it in the back, because there's no curb to go over, there's no impairments, there's nothing. You go right up, right down that ramp into the door. If you want to do it out front, there's nothing wrong with doing it in front, but what I suggest is you have the sidewalk committee just put a ramp next to, you have a parking spot and then a big enough area so that they can put a access little ramp, so you have like a space and a half. If you want to do it like you're saying, not van accessible, just have like a half a space so you can cut into the curb, and now they get out of the car and then go straight up the curb. Or without a curb. You shouldn't have a curb.
Okay. We can work with the sergeant.
We'll work
Yeah.
together to change that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next, citizen comment period. Next on the agenda was Mrs. Salinas. Is she here? Regarding climate
Haven't seen her all
change?
night, no.
No? Okay, next is Mr. Decaro. Is Mr. Decaro here? Regarding the open meeting law, Selectman, and SCTS. Hi, how are you?
Good evening. Gene Decro, for the record, 388 Central Street, Saugus. Imagine I stayed awake this whole time. Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, when we spoke, I mentioned that the Saugus Cable Board was not following their own bylaws, and you, as a group, were not enforcing those bylaws. And the one item I brought up, excuse me, was the high school. According to the bylaws, all the meetings were supposed to be at One Pierce Drive. And you said the reason they changed it, it was not handicapped accessible. Now, I don't know where you got your information, but I checked it out, and it not only is, but was handicapped accessible, but that's not the issue. The issue is, the bylaws says, they had to have a public hearing before this board, and this board had to vote to change the bylaws. And you did not do that. They also hired an attorney. And that attorney was used to fire Mr. Garabedian, and you said, I can't comment on that because it may go into litigation. Mr. Chairman, it has nothing to do with litigation. What it has to do with is following the bylaws. And according to their bylaws that you approved, it says that they cannot hire, and they cannot lease, and they cannot go into contracts without a public hearing before this board, and that the majority of this board must approve it. They didn't do it, and you didn't enforce it. Now, if you're going to be representatives of the community and in charge of that group, which you are, why aren't we enforcing the bylaws? Are you going to answer? Or do I have to come back next meeting and ask the same questions? Are you going to do anything about it?
Any board members want to comment? No.
I think he's addressing the chair, Mr. Chairman.
You have one vote, you have five-member board.
Ipan, you're not going to do anything about it.
No comment.
Then why?
Okay, I'll take it under
Why do
advisement.
they report to this board if this board is not going to do anything about it? I'm only going by the bylaws. And when you told me that the money, when I brought up about the budget, was $500,000, at that time, the piece of paper I had showed that it was $831,000. I just don't understand how the Board of Selectmen could be in charge of an organization and not follow through on it. I certainly would appreciate if this board would come up with some answers for the public, because the public put you here to represent us. And we feel, at least I feel, and I'm sure the citizens feel, that you're not doing that job. And the last thing I have at this time, I'll probably be back again, is the open meeting law. Would you kindly, sir, show me where in the open meeting law that someone who is coming before you under citizens forum and has to have an agenda? Because I couldn't find it in the open meeting law. No answer?
They are having a forum at North Shore Community College in Danvers on October 24th between 6 and 8 p.m. Maybe if you go down there, they might be able to explain you in better detail than I.
Would you be nice enough to let the citizens know about that meeting, the time and the place?
Yeah, that's probably the third time I announced it at the Selectmen's meetings.
I'd
But I'll
appreciate it
see if I can get a post.
If somebody will put
that.
that in writing so
Okay.
the citizens can see it, because not everyone watches these meetings. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next. Hi, how are you?
Mr. Chairman, Chris Petridge, Chairman of the Saugus Cable Television Board. I'll attempt to answer a question that previous gentleman had posed to you. The issue with changing the venue of the meeting from the cable TV studios to the Saugus Police Station was first and foremost was the issue of handicap accessible, relevant to elevators and so forth. And because you have that little piece over the doorstep that might make it tough for somebody, technically, it's not necessarily handicap accessible. But we'd be more than glad, to change it and put it any place in town that the public has access to. It is not an issue for us. There is little or no seating whatsoever at the cable TV station. There was lots of room upstairs in the police station, and it was done for that reason mostly, to accommodate all the people that wanted to come in and throw rocks. And that's basically why we did it. The issue with public meeting, the public meeting law that he's curious about, and the issue with hiring an attorney, we sought guidance from town council with regards to the issues that we had discovered, which ultimately led to the discharge of the individual who was now appealing that discharge, was to seek outside counsel, because that's what he does and that's what he recommended for us to do, was to seek outside counsel to put this thing together. And that's pretty much it. We went with the guidance of town council. None of us on that board are attorneys. We didn't have a personal axe to grind, as has been bandied about for the last year. This were hard facts, very disparaging things that we have come to discover. And the bill of particulars that was presented, it was presented as such so that the bases would be covered properly and that the individual in question would be given all of his due rights. Every single solitary one of his due rights was given to him, and that's the reason why an attorney was brought in. The question about open meeting, not being a chance to say anything, the issue came down to a disciplinary hearing. It was an open meeting to start with. It was when we ended, but in a disciplinary process under Mass General Law 30A, we afforded the individual the right to go into private session, executive session, to discuss what we had to say. He chose to keep it out in public because he had all of his cronies there to try to influence things.
Yeah,
And that's
Chris,
what it came down to.
I don't really want to get into the former executive director. I just assume, I think you've said enough. You try to explain yourself enough without getting into any more detail, since that is under appeal. And I just assume end it there regarding him.
Okay,
Okay, I appreciate
I'll
it.
gladly yield, but there's answers to all of this crap.
Okay, thank you. Next, please, next.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a comment about Saugus Concerned Citizens. I understand today was successful in gaining the signatures that they were looking for to get the Saugus cable issue on the ballot in November. And I know it was probably a tough task in a short amount of time, and I just want to congratulate you guys for putting the effort in and doing what you had to do. So, good job.
Any other comments? Next, come on up.
The gentleman that just spoke still didn't answer the questions, and they still didn't follow the rules. The rules are their rules. They're in writing. They're right here. You have copies. There must be a public hearing before the board, and the board must vote on it. You can make all the rhetoric you want. You can talk all about lawyers. You can talk about town council. Town council has nothing to do with it. If you have a set of rules and bylaws, follow them. If you're not going to follow them, get rid of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, hi, how are you?
Judd Stenhoff, Ward 47, New Hall, Saugus. With regards to the statement regarding the former operations manager discharge, that is a meeting that should never have been brought before the public. It should have been handled privately between the council, the board of directors, and the gentleman involved. To bring it to a public forum was a total embarrassment to that man, humiliating and disgusting. It's despicable that they did that. That's all. It's a personal opinion. They had no business doing that. They should have conducted it as an executive meeting or something outside of a public forum. When you open a public forum, the public has a right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn, Mr.
Selectman
Chairman.
Castelletti makes a motion to adjourn, seconded by the chair. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, ayes have it 5-0. Good night, everybody.